I got exposed to pornography right when I was 12 years old. A sequence of events happened where I got exposed to pornography. Then I moved schools. I had no way of making new friends. I was left alone with a desktop computer. My generation, we were part of the first wave of kids that had access to high-speed internet pornography when we were children. Breaking my porn addiction, dude, that brought me to my knees.
She randomly selected 50 of the 275. 9 out of 10 of those scenes, there's a lot of physical aggression.
With AI, they can detect based on hands movement how old you are. So how wild is that? What does it mean though to find God? I was struck with a vision of Jesus Christ being crucified in me.
I gotta ask, for how addicted you were, how did you overcome it? I want to delve into the mental aspect of it because I think that's the most difficult part.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bros Think Big podcast. This is the show where we talk about the simple and yet complicated ideas of self-improvement. Tune in and join us as we become the best versions of ourselves just so that you guys can too. And always remember to like and subscribe for more. Today we have such a fascinating guest and we have so much to unpack with him. So I'm just going to cut right to it. Cole, come on in here.
Let's go, Cole.
Let's go.
How you doing, man? Good to have you.
Cole, I have so much respect for everything that you're doing. So to give you a little digital resume, Cole has his own personal training business called My Health Revamp, stationed in New Jersey, if any of you folks are from there, which I would absolutely go check it out. And then he also has his own NPO, Screen New Jersey, which is absolutely amazing. It's going to be the focal point of this episode, and I have so much respect to you for that. So first of all, props. Love the mission. I love what you're after. And we want to just dive right into how you even came about this in the first place. But also, before we do that, break us down what this NPO is.
Yeah. So Screen New Jersey, I formed with the sole aim of getting age verification legislation passed in the state of New Jersey. And what age verification legislation is basically the way it works right now with these pornographic websites is literally anybody can just click onto it and is instantly flooded with pornographic images. There's not even a barrier to entry. Roughly 3% of the sites will ask you if you're 18, but even then, if they do, you just simply click, yes, I'm 18. You're granted access. So it doesn't really do anything. What age verification would do is it would make it so that people actually have to prove they're above the age of 18. And there's a few different ways you can do this. One is by uploading ID, showing that you're above the age of 18, just like you would provide to a liquor store or anything like that. But then if some people think that that's too intrusive, there's also new options as technology develops using AI where they can scan your face and tell how old you are. So I recently spoke at, I had two big speeches recently. I spoke at the New Jersey Capitol about this to all the legislators that are really interested about this bill. And then I also spoke at the UN. But the legislators I spoke to at the Capitol afterwards, a lot of us in the nonprofits I testified with, we went to dinner afterwards, and the technology expert who was there, he showcased this new tech where, we all went around the table and it scanned our faces and told us pretty much exactly how old we were within like a 2 year or a few years span range. And there were some kids at the table too. It could tell that the kids were kids and the adults were adults. So, you have stuff like that. And then he even said, this was a really interesting one, that with AI, they can detect based on hands movements how old you are. So how wild is that? So evidently the way that adults' hands moves is different from a child's, whether it's like more coordinated. And then also there's this tendon here, evidently, that grows at a, and then
wow.
it can detect that and it can tell your age from that. So there's also ways, I think one of the things that irks people about this legislation is that their identity is going to be compromised to these pornographic companies. But then... but now there's all these other options where that isn't as much an issue. So, to not leverage the technology we have today to keep our kids safe from this, vile content, which I believe and would make the case for that this is the most pressing issue devastating our country right now. There's just no issue that hurts a wider swath of people, right? And our most precious and vulnerable population of people, our children, and has such a negative impact on him, and I could talk a little bit about my story, and I'm sure you guys might have some of your own as well, but
for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, this stuff. I mean, it drove me to drug addiction, it drove me to damn near suicide, it destroyed every single relationship I had in my life. I mean, yeah, when I talk about suicide, that's the prime precursor that they find to suicide is actually isolation and ostracism. So, growing up, I was a really well-liked kid, throughout my whole life. Well, no, not my whole life, up until the age of 12 when I got introduced to pornography. And like all that changed once I got into porn and I moved schools, and from that point forward, like I got ostracized out of every single group of friends I was in. Like it was insane. Like I was telling my buddy, I was like, I think I might have set a record for the number of groups of people I've gotten kicked out of, because I'm a really like gregarious guy, so I make friends really easily. But because of my porn addiction, and you guys can understand, I had like the most severe porn addiction. So I was using pornography like 3 or 4 times a day in my youth, like when I went up. Like I've talked to people that they're like, I didn't even know that was possible. It was like every single day. I rarely missed a day. Like just didn't happen. And so when you're using porn that much, like my brain was shot, and like I could
probably just fucked.
Is totally screwed. Yeah, and so. I couldn't regulate my emotions, and so, things would happen whenever you're in groups of friends, right? You have disagreements, things like that, and, I might just, like, really explode, and, you can have disagreements and things, but there's a limit to how out of control you can get. And I never, like, got violent or punching things, but people would be like, whoa, this dude's, like, really not... within control of himself, and I don't know if I want to be friends with this guy. Or, I just cause a lot of social turmoil through, just not being very friendly towards people. Another thing that pornography does is it makes you retreat within yourself, and you become very paranoid and suspicious of others. Like, all of a sudden, I just felt like people didn't like me, and if they got to know me, they wouldn't like me. And then that just became this self-fulfilling prophecy where... I'd meet new people. I could tell they would want to be friends with me, but I would kind of retreat from them, and they'd be like, wow, what's this guy's an asshole? He doesn't want to get to know my name. He doesn't want to take time to talk to me. But people didn't realize that I was just so insecure, right, that, I thought no matter what, they'd see the real me and they'd hate me. And anyway, so, yeah, I mean... so that's just the isolation that it led to, but then that led to suicidal thoughts, because after you get kicked out of, I don't even know, like, dozens and dozens of groups of people, you start to think you're like a crazy person, and I pretty much was, but I was just addicted to pornography. I couldn't really put 2 and 2 together until I went later down in my life, but I just think that's what could be bigger? Like the consequence of this issue can literally be life or death for people. And I say when we talk about the youth, like something I have an issue with is everybody talks about social media. Everybody loves to blame social media because people, one, it's a very safe issue to talk about, and everybody likes, saying how they're tired of seeing everybody's highlights and relating to that. It's a straw man that they point out. Yeah, exactly. But, nobody wants to confront the fact that like all of our children are getting ravaged by hardcore internet pornography, and that there's something that we could easily do about it, and that we as adults have been dropping the ball for like 2 decades now. Our kids have access to this, just people don't want to think about it.
As you were mentioning this, like I begin to realize, like growing up, like just like especially with guys, it's like it's so normal to like sexualize and like just have that sort of just talk with your guys and stuff like that. Oh, she has some big tits. Oh, look at her ass. It's so nice. And it's like, looking at that, it's like, why is that so normal nowadays? And it's because of porn, right?
Yeah.
People watch so much porn.
Yeah.
They think they become desensitized to it. And now it's just like a normal thing. Oh, like, what'd you watch yesterday?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite? Oh, I watched this. It was so good and stuff like that. It's like, when you talk about, what do you say? What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, the concept of sex, sexual relationship, or any type of relationship really changes from an understanding of what you're watching on there, because it's completely different.
Especially at a developmental age, when you're growing up, it's like you're gonna get programmed. That's like the only source of like high dopamine that you get.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're doing it way more. You're isolating yourself, and it leads you down that dark path.
Exactly. Yeah. When you get sexualized at that young of an age, like, so I don't know if you mind just sharing a little bit about your story, but, like, we have completely different paths, right? Because, I got exposed to pornography right when I was 12 years old, and then this, unfortunate sequence of events happened where I got exposed to pornography. I broke my leg in half snowboarding, so I had a cast from my ankle all the way up to my hip, and then I moved schools. And so I ended up in this situation where I was at a new school with no friends. I had no way of making new friends since I had a cast up to my hip. Like, I had trouble bathing, let alone running and playing with people like I used to do. And then I was left alone with a desktop computer. My generation, or my class of kids, we were the first wave of kids that had access to high-speed internet pornography when we were children. So our parents were none the wiser what was going on, and we were a dual-income household. So I just got super addicted to this stuff to such an insane age. I was just really lonely and was watching it a crazy amount. Whereas Sadula, you were saying, like, you didn't get exposed to it till you were, like, 15, 16 years old, and then you, like, watch a little bit, but then when you're like, hey, I don't want to watch this anymore, like, you were able to break ties with it really easily. Whereas me, I got addicted to it in my most formative years to such a severe extent where I was using as much as I just said, and, escalating to, like, really hardcore stuff. Like, breaking those bonds was like, dude, I mean, like I said, I wound up with drug addiction, things like that. I was able to quit using coke, alcohol, weed, you name it, food. I was eating a really strict diet of just, like, lean meats, fruits, and vegetables. I was able to do all that stuff. Breaking my porn addiction was like, dude, that brought me to my knees, and so, I mean, that's just the benefit of your path, and what I hope to bring to other children is they have something more similar to Sadula, where, not just Sadula, like even later than that, where they don't get exposed to this stuff until they're 18 years old, and that way, they're going to have a much better fight against it, is my belief.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even when I used to even do that type of stuff, like, so often, it's like I felt insecure. I really couldn't talk to a girl because, I mean, in your head, you're just fantasizing. You're just like, oh, what is she going to say? It's like you're only using her for her body, etc. It just ruins the whole dynamic of having an actual relationship with a woman, right?
Yeah.
Knowing, okay, like, how to even form, like, to be honest, like, me now, it's like I haven't had a relationship in, like, I think over 2 years. And I could even say it's like, I still don't know. I still haven't really had that real relationship like that just because of porn and what it did to my mind and my brain and how I viewed women itself.
Because it's just so different from what happens in reality, right? It's like what you see on there and how they go about having sex is just so different from what's gonna happen in real life. Like, it's just, you're not gonna just show up in the same room and be like, oh yeah, like, it's just gonna be so different from reality, and that's what drags you into a deep hole of, like, what's happening? Am I the problem? Am I the issue?
Since you said that, this is the perfect time for me to bring up this study. This was in 2005 by Anna J. Bridges, and I thought this was fascinating. She studied pornography's effect on interpersonal relationships, right? So in the time of 2005 or 2004 to 2005, she randomly selected 50 of the 275 best-selling, most rented U.S. porn movies, right? So from December of 2004 to June 2005, they took out 304 of those scenes and really went to analyze them. And what they found is in about 9 out of 10 of those scenes, there is a lot of physical aggression being involved. 9 out of 10. That includes, like, gagging, slapping, hair pulling, physical aggression, whatever, right? And about 5 out of 10 of them have verbal aggression through name calling, right? Such as, like, bitch, slut. And after hearing all this shit, like, when exposed to this aggression, women particularly, they would react positively most of the time, or neutrally, but never negatively, because they know that's not what the guys jerking off to this shit on the other side of the screen want to hear, right? And why I'm bringing this up is because what you're just saying, like, is this really how you want to go about it? When you grow older, you're having sex with your wife, and you're like, "Come on, slut! Come on, bitch! Is that what we're going? Like, really?
No.
Really? That is so fucked up." And this isn't rocket science. What we see often is what we get used to. So you're gonna go about, and you're gonna like install those same fucking habits that you're seeing through the fucking screen to the bed.
But
and
the thing
that's
is,
so fucked up.
this goes all, like, the way to women as well. Women think that's how I'm supposed to act to make a guy like me. And it goes both ways. And now, women are screwed.
Not necessarily, because women don't watch porn as much as men do. They don't engage in a video like pornography. It's like a little different for them, so it's not on the same spectrum. But even with women, like, they're not gonna want you to say that. They're not gonna like that. Do you know what I mean?
A good amount of women are watching it, though.
To a degree, the
some
ones
are
that
watching,
do watch it are probably thinking the same thing.
Right.
This is like, okay, my boyfriend's not saying this to me in bed. Am I doing something wrong? This means something has to be right. Like, why is he not calling me a slut and a dirty whore? Like, why is he not slapping the fuck? Like, What? Like, are we being
Yeah.
ass? Like, this is what it's involved.
No, dude, and it
So
escalates to the
disgusting.
point where like some of them actively want that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the issue. Like, us guys, like, you get so addicted to it, like, you want to act out some of the things you've seen in pornography, and like, I had to. So I was telling you guys before, I haven't had sex in 7 years. Half of that was due to me just recovering from my porn addiction and not wanting to end up in another crazy relationship like my ex-girlfriend. But then another half of that was me becoming a Christian and just knowing, hey, sex before marriage is something I never want to do, right? But, oh shoot, what was I going to say?
And then you said that played out in your relationship with a woman on what you would see on pornography and how you would want to act that out.
Yeah, oh yes, exactly, that's, yeah. So, yeah, and that, so leading up to that, though, like, throughout my late teens, early 20s, I did have sex with, like, a decent number of girls, and in my encounters with them, like, it was clear, like, these girls watched porn. Like, you could just tell, you can tell when you're having sex with a girl who isn't addicted to porn, and, like, it's, like, all kind of new and, like, sweet to her. Like, I could understand, like, especially with having sex with my ex-girlfriend, the one that, like, really broke my heart, like, why people love, place such a high value on virginity back in the day. Because there's something different there, like, when it's so special to the person like that. Whereas, like, there were some girls I had sex with, and you could just tell, like, they had sex with, like, dozens and dozens of guys. And it just wasn't special, and there just wasn't as strong of a connection. But those girls who, had sex with so many guys, you could just tell, like, they watched a lot of porn from the stuff that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I do have. I just want to ask: is it you're not supposed to say bad words to? What if that gets someone going, or is that?
Well, listen,
I'm a
if
little
that's a
confused
natural
here.
desire of yours and that's what you want to be called, I mean, I guess who am I to judge? At the end of the day, I'm not. That's certain as fuck not what I know my girlfriend doesn't want to be called, right?
Yeah, but I'm curious. Like, aren't people freaky? So what's wrong if they're?
Well, the
freaky
problem
type
with
word?
that is the words, you can be freaky without having to use the words bitch and slut. Like, being freaky doesn't mean being aggressive. Being kinky doesn't mean being verbally or physically aggressive, right? If that's what you're into naturally, and that's a desire that came through in porn, who am I to judge? Do whatever you want, right? I don't care. But if you want to ask me what is wrong with that, well, when you bring those, what's happening to the bed, those habits, those signs of aggression to the outside world, who knows? Predators, the people that rape, most of them, even in that study, and included too, have a drive, or have a connection to, like, a fucking. I don't know how
Starting
to
from
say it.
that, you're right.
It's a direct link. Sorry, that's how they said it in the study, to pornography, right? That's not good aggression or anything at all, of course. If that's what being freaky is to you, no judgmental.
it just keeps
You
getting
do.
more deviant too. That's the thing.
It's like a snowball
And
effect
you
almost.
you don't want to deviate. Like, the sex, the way that God intended it, is between a man and a woman in marriage, and really it's for the purpose of procreation. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be making a baby every single time. I believe sex also has the purpose of bonding the parents together, but that's what it is at its core. And the more that we deviate from that, the more it's going to skew your brain, the more that it's going to cause you to devalue your partner and lose love for them. Just like how, people might think, all right, well, so you watch a lot of porn, Cole, so you got in some freaky hardcore porn and whatnot. So what's the issue with that? Well, the issue with that is it literally changed me as a person, right? It didn't stop with the porn. It, like, transferred into my personality, how much I love the people around me. And I see this in a lot of my, clients, right? They'll open up to me about the fact that, they're still addicted to porn, but they don't think it's an issue for their marriage. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to tell you. It is, however much you think you love your wife now, and I'm sure you do love her, you would love her more if you weren't addicted to porn. I can tell you, as a guy who is probably the most severely addicted person, I haven't masturbated or watched pornography in going on 2 years now, There's not a lot of 29-year-olds guys that can say that, right, But it's like, and I just feel like I just love people so much. I always want to be around others. That little kid that people like so much growing up, it just came all back the second I got addicted to that thing. So no amount of it is good. It's a drug, It's this unnatural stimulus, just like cocaine is, that human society has never known. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the divorce rate is as high as it is. There's crazy stats that in like 50% of all divorces, pornography was like a major player. And yeah, it's not too hard for me to see from my experience, and especially with my ex-girlfriends,
I what the fuck? I also want to say, like, one thing I think you missed is when it comes to the whole sex thing is, yeah, one of the biggest reasons is for procreation. Yeah. But I also like to believe that it's love. It's a transfer of energy between love. That's why Christians, you wait for marriage for sex, right? It's so special. That's what you keep it for. Yeah. And when you're having in that moment of sex, and your transfer of love being called a slut, being called a bitch. I'm not gonna speak for women when I say this, but can we really say that most girls want to be called a slut, a bitch?
For sure not.
Like, yeah, that'd be foolish to say. Absolutely not. No. And so that whole idea is, why is that a bad thing? That's part of my answer too. Sex is more than just. It's special. It's probably one of the largest transfers between love, of energy between love, right? So what I'm trying to say is, it's pretty fucking important what you do when you have that sex.
Well, and you can see too. Yeah. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, it is really devaluing somebody when you are having sex with them and you're calling them slut, bitch, or like slapping them and stuff. Like, it's just, there's just so many things that are wrong with it that anybody can really detect. No matter how freaky you want to be, that's just devaluing somebody with words. And you know, if you go back to words or energy and stuff, it gets deeper and deeper when you understand it to what's really going on, other than just throwing words out. Like, it's,
and you guys are super into self-improvement stuff like that. Like, you've probably noticed this pattern with everything in life that's really euphoric for a second, right? Usually doesn't pay off well down the road, right? So eating a bunch of candy, right, feels euphoric in the moment, but isn't good for your waistline down the road, right? Yeah. And so, you know, it's the same thing, that this might really get you off in the moment, you know, as you're communing with the devil, doing this super degenerate sex acts. But down the road, it actually fizzles out, and those people have the worst sex lives. So it's funny, if you look at research, and you can just see this on the CDC, this isn't even me like going to some far-flung Christian site or anything, the people that are the most satisfied with their sex lives are virgins who waited to have sex, or waited for marriage to have sex. They are by far the happiest. And not only...
And where can people find this study? If you can recall, where can people find it?
You can find it on the CD, the Center for Disease Control. Yeah, oh, okay. They have it right up there. And you'll see with every sexual partner that's owned, particularly for women, you'll see this, that they have before they get married, their odds of like depression go up, but also their relationship dissatisfaction goes up, and the likelihood that they're going to get a divorce goes up. And this is why men have that innate sense that they don't want to be with a girl that has a high body count of men. Now, I'm not saying that if a woman has a high body count, you can never give somebody their past and they're just so far gone. Because look at me. Like, I would say I probably have like a decently high body count, and then I watch more porn than anybody. So, like, you know, I honestly can't judge anyone. But, like, God cleansed me, you know? Yeah. And, like, I have been reborn. I don't care what anybody says. Like, my mind was so filthy before I came to this crescendo night, essentially, where I pretty much, like, gave up fighting my porn addiction. I was just like, oh, this thing's gonna kill me. And then he took it from me. And yeah, since then, it's just, it's so clean now, you know? I mean, every now and then I'll have flashes of porn that I watched in the past, but it's so rare, and there's just no power to it anymore, you know? It doesn't overtake me. So, but with all that being said, the fact remains, it's not healthy for men, and especially women, to be having sex with a lot of partners before getting married. Like, the stats just prove it out. So, once again, you know, people might have these ideas, like I had before, that, oh, you're just trying a lot of different flavors of ice cream before you settle down on the one you want, and you'll know what you like the best. First of all, that's like this really degenerate, it comes from this really degenerate place where we think that sex is this performative art, right? You know, and you have to be a good actor. Sex is the most basic thing in the world, and really, your sex life is going to be enhanced in as much as you love your partner, how much you two love each other, and how much each one of you loves God. That's the only thing that enhances sex. And when you engage in sex in that light, it's not even like a physical act is being taking place. Like, seriously, it just feels like you're enraptured in a spiritual experience, and it's like you're transported to heaven. That's what ideally it's supposed to be like. But yeah, people have this idea, right? I'm just going to try a lot of flavors and find a one. Well, wrong, right? You know, the people that tried a lot of flavors, you're just seeing their stats go up and up and up in terms of how dissatisfied they are with their sex in the marriage. So a lot of these things are counterintuitive, but I understand where you're coming from. I know you're not like totally sold on the God issue, but I'm saying, like, even if you're not sold on the God issue, right, like, you can see just concrete stats where, like, our intuition about the world, like, isn't right, you know, and there were things written in the Bible that they were there for a reason. I think a lot of us are realizing, you know. But.
So it seems like you're connecting this whole issue with pornography and also the idea of sex and how it was perverted and stuff
Yeah.
to God and stuff. And you also did mention that, you know, as a Christian and stuff, you would never have a sex before marriage and stuff.
Yeah,
And I just
yeah.
want to know, I know that gets a lot of people confused, and they also have an understanding that, you know, oh yeah, when you're a Christian, you're not having sex before marriage and stuff. But what is the case, and why would you say personally that you're never gonna have sex before marriage as a Christian?
And if I never get married, I'll never have sex. You know, again, I mean, I haven't had sex, unfortunately. I wish I was
Yeah.
a virgin, but yeah, I mean, the
Because
case.
that's
the
a
case
very
is that-
strong take right
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm even confused myself.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? Why is that the case for you, right? And why are you doing that? Because you
Well-
say that you're not gonna have sex
Well,
if you don't get married.
Like I'll start with like explaining it from the spiritual lens first. First of all, God ordained it this way, right?
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ like saved my life so many times. Like first I was like purposeless, wandering life. Like that one question was driving me freaking crazy. What is the purpose of life? Like I just couldn't let it go, you know? And then when like he revealed himself to me, I got all the purpose I could ever want, you know? I was like, wow, this is this is almost more purpose than I can handle, but you know, thank God for it. And then he just saved me a second time when I was brought to my knees by this porn addiction that was going to take my life. Either I was going to, you know, overdose on drugs, which I was tormenting myself with just so I could feel something for a second because the porn was making me feel so numb to the entire world, you know, or I was going to kill myself from all the ostracism and isolation I was going through. Eventually it was going to take my life, right? And he took that from me. So I owe everything to my Lord. And so I would just never sin against him. He ordained a sin. Now, I can give you secular reasons, though, right? So
Right.
Josh, I actually like having you here because, like, I can give, because maybe not everybody on the other side of the camera is a Christian. So here's some more secular reasons why I think God might have made it this way. You know, one is we're seeing this right now where because we'll just use crude red pill language here. The sexual marketplace has been completely deregulated. We've had the sexual revolution, so there's no more shame about having sex before marriage, right? Now, on top of that, we have this social media generation where we have access to tons of people at the click of a button, right? And what we're finding is all of the women, or not, I shouldn't say all the women, you can't make huge generations, but enough of a percentage of them are gravitating towards the top percentile of guys that there's this whole distortion of the sexual market now.
The high value man.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say, you know, all it takes is one football athlete, right? You know, obviously, like, he's just going to be able to have sex with whoever he wants, right? He you know, to have sex with, let's say, just like 200 girls over the span, it's like that's 200 women who now are going to be kind of like damaged going into a relationship. And so like one person can wreak so much havoc. Or let's just say that's 200 women who are wasting their youth, their 20s, their childbearing years when you're supposed to be having a family, chasing this guy who's never going to settle down with him. He's only going to have sterile, just, you know, casual sex with them, but is never actually going to settle down and commit with them. And then, yeah, it leads to this scenario where, one, I have a good amount of friends now. It's not even like just a few, who these are like totally average looking guys. They're not, like, I'm not saying that they're chads or anything, but they're not ugly guys, you know? They're totally average looking guys, and they're like, dude, I'm just like giving up at this point, you know? Because they're literally getting no dates, you know? Like that, so that's a crappy situation, right? To have such a large swath of your young men. Like the average young man can't get a date, or if he does, he's so anxious the entire time because these girls, they feel like they have this pick of the litter. They're going on their apps and they're seeing a million guys that want to be with them, and then they're also seeing this top tier guy, right, who is willing to not only like give them attention but have sex with them. They're just not making the connection. The guy that you can have sex with is not necessarily the guy that you can lock down, right? And it's leading to this generation of, you know, men who aren't getting any dates and women who are getting strung along and turned and burned by all these chads. And everybody is super depressed. Like, nobody's happy with the dating situation right now in their 20s and 30s. Like, if you didn't meet a girl in college or high school or something like that, like, you're kind of in for a rough ride. Some people get lucky. Like, you know, I have heard people where the first person they match with on the dating app turned out to be their husband. But a lot of people are just spending like years and years going through this, and yeah, it sucks, you know. Like, it would have been.
They pay money into that.
Was
And
it? Yeah,
stuff, yeah,
yeah,
like Tinder
exactly.
dates and
It takes
stuff.
our money,
Which is
and
crazy.
So you can just see, like, it's almost like our fallen nature is taking over here. You know, this fallen nature of women to place such high importance on status and looks, you know, because women are actually pretty shallow in looks. I think we found, like, when they're engaged, I don't think all together they are, but when they're engaged in their fallen nature, they are. Just like we're prone to these things as men, too. And, yeah, you know, you just, and now people are, you know, they're not finding the person. Eventually what happens is these women get to, like, their mid-30s and they realize, okay, I actually have to settle down now. And their standards get readjusted, but then they'll settle down with a guy and then they might not be able to get pregnant because they waited too long. I know so many people, and I'm not saying this is all their faults, but they're struggling with fertility. They're all going to these fertility doctors. Now they're getting in vitro fertilization, which has its own ethical considerations. And, yeah, I mean, we can see why it's an issue now to not to have so much sex before marriage. Like, these are the kind of issues that crop up. Whereas, let's imagine, right, you didn't have sex before marriage. Well, then why would the football athlete even waste time going on a date with a girl that's way below her? Yeah, he'll have a one-night stand with her, but if he knows I can only be with one girl, right, he's only going to actually go on a date with and take seriously another girl who's like, let's say he's Tom Brady, he's a 10. He's only going to give time to Gisele Bündchen, right? But what that does is frees up all these other girls to actually focus on the guys that are in their league, right? Everybody just pairs up. You know, it's like our great-grandparents' generation. They never had to go through all this dating crap that we had to go through. Like, everybody just paired up in high school because there was no sex in marriage, and that's when people were deciding their partners at that age. And it was just so much easier to fall in love then. But, yeah, you know, the fives pair off of the fives, the 7 pairs off of the 7s, the 8 pairs, you know what I mean? And it works out that way. But that's not happening right now because this
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Yeah, I think you really hit it home with that. And I want to touch up on the whole isolation thing. And, like, in a world where we see in everyone's lives, everyone is still so alone, right? And even for me personally, like, now I'm thinking about it, it's like, it kind of would be hard for me to kind of find a girl to go on a date with that is like, that would be down to, you mean, wait till marriage and take things seriously, because from the girls that I've met, it's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's like, they're kind of just like,
very much so.
Yeah. And I want to ask you this, right? What if someone wanted to say to you, Cole, you mean, I like having sex with women. You mean, that's just what I like to do all the time. Like, why don't I just, it's my only life. Might as well do it. Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, but we always have to think that we live in a society, right? And our actions impact others. And I believe that you're actually going to be the happiest when you're considerate of your fellow man that you live in your country with, right? So let's say you are an extremely handsome, very charismatic guy, and you want to say, yeah, but who cares, Cole? Like, this is how I want to live my life. But just think about how many women you are going to string along in that path. Any girl that has sex with you is going to get kind of hooked on you and is going to have baggage because of you, because she shared the most intimate experience that a human being could possibly ever have, and it didn't go anywhere, right? Like, every time that happens to a girl, that weighs on her. And so, you know,
not just with a guy, but with a girl, but with a guy too.
Yeah, and with a guy too. With a guy too. Yeah, that happened to me a lot. And yeah, so I think those guys, you know, once again, like the candy, right? You know, it feels good at the moment having sex with all these girls. But a lot of these guys you'll even see, like, they have really big issues with this. Like, I would consider one of my close friends, he's a Chad, right? Like, he's had sex with, I want to say it's over 100 girls. But now he has real problems finding a good girl to settle down with. Because every girl that comes across him can just see F-boy written across his forehead. Like, these actions change you, you know? And, like, we can't think that we're ever going to get one over on God. And if you don't believe in God, just think of it as karma, you know? Like, you know, just like how you are what you eat, you know, the actions you put out there, that people are going to read that into you.
Just manifests itself out.
It does. And
he energy as well.
Yeah, he just gives off these vibes, these hook-up vibes, even when it's around a girl that he actually would want to settle down with. And so nobody gets out of it. And that's the funny thing. I think people think the guys that are at the top of the pyramid, they're having the best time. But really, they're going to have, I think, a lot of emotional trauma over all the girls whose hearts they broke, you know? And then they're also going to have trouble finding a good girl to settle down with because she's going to see him coming, you know? Mm-hmm. And just like how girls get judged on their past, we get judged on our past, too. Once again, I don't think that God can't change or forget anything. We can't change as people. but we're not really setting ourselves up for success. My vision with this age verification legislation to start with, but even further with our whole sexual culture, is instead of everybody going through what I had to go through, right, getting super addicted to pornography, sleeping around a bunch, creating just like a whole wreckage pass, coming to the brink of death, just like fighting tooth and nail to get out of this pit of a depression addiction, and then finally by the grace of God getting saved from it. And only now I'm getting back in the marketplace, and hopefully I'll be able to find a way. But instead of us all going through that process, we could just kind of like start off good. And there's this great quote, I forget who said it, but like, tradition is the solution to a problem even after you forgot what the problem was, right? So we have all these traditions. We're like, why is this stupid tradition here, right? And we don't realize, okay, well, that was actually there for a reason, And, the problem was what we see today, but we broke the tradition. And when you just keep those things going, even though you forgot what the original problem is, you don't have to keep solving the same problem over and over and over again. That's the beauty of it. So I think we need to go back to a more traditional time of courtship and relationship and
1,000%. I love
Cool.
it.
I gotta ask. I don't know how it hasn't been mentioned yet, but for how addicted you were, how did you overcome it? And I want to delve into the mental aspect of it because I think that's the most difficult part. How did you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, I tried like everything with, I first joined AA because I knew that, not only was I starting to have issues, Alcoholics Anonymous, not only was I starting to have issues with alcohol, right, but on top of it, I noticed that if I even just had a couple of drinks, that would lower my inhibitions to the point where I would relapse with pornography. So I was like, all right, I got to start there, right? And then from AA, found about SA, which I would say to anybody on camera, you guys, if you ever have an issue with pornography and you just can't get rid of it, that's a really great program. That stands for Sexaholics Anonymous. It took me so long to find that because, like, I remember searching for Porn Addicts Anonymous because I was like, oh, this AA, this is, like, great for alcohol. I wish there was something like this for porn because that's, like, my real keystone issue. And, I kept searching Porn Addicts Anonymous, and nothing came up. And then I didn't realize what they were doing was they were grouping porn addiction under the umbrella of sex addiction. But sex addiction, I was like, I'm not sex addict. That makes it sound like I'm this Don Juan that's bringing home a girl every night. Yeah. That's like the farthest thing from the truth. I'm watching porn every night, and like I want to get to the point where I could, ask out a girl, but I just can't right now. So, I tried those things, but it went and there was a lot good in them because, you're asking about the mental aspect, but really the mental, led to the spiritual, which that's really what ultimately alleviated me. And, in those programs, it's all about bringing you through these 12 steps, which I would even say, even if you don't have an addiction, everybody should just go through these 12 steps because it's the Christian process, of making amends for your past. Like Christ says, if you have a gift to bring to the altar, but you have something against your brother, leave your gift where it is. Go make amends with your brother first, and then bring your gift to the altar. That's how important it is for us to make amends with our brothers. And that's like the crescendo step. It's step 9 that you go through all the people in your past, you apologize to them, and then also if you owe them some type of restitution, like let's say you stole money from a person to get drugs or or whatever, or it's some girl whose heart you broke, like one of the girls that I made amends to. I remember one was like my first serious girlfriend. Yeah, we'll talk about that one. So my first serious girlfriend, this is kind of crazy, this girl had like done nothing, but she like really liked me, I could tell. And one day, like she had like her first kiss with me to having sex with me in just like one night, which is kind of crazy. Jump, yeah. And she was like really hooked on me. And then
and what was it in your case? What was it in your case?
I had it was weird. Yeah, at that point, like I had sex with some girls. Definitely, like I don't want to get into too many details, but yeah like I had done much more than her.
Were the feelings mutual?
Yeah, well, I really liked her too, but this was the issue was, so my senior year of high school, I just had like a really good year where a lot of girls were attracted to me, especially because like I just went like, so I had a really good year of wrestling, my junior year, and then the high school football coach asked me to come out for the football team. Because he just saw the way that I was taking guys down. He's like, oh, that looks like a football tackle. So I was talking to my buddies. I was like, I don't think I'm going to go out for the team, but if I did, I think I would start. And they were like, no, you wouldn't start. And I was like, I think I would. And so anyways, I went up for the team. I was able to start. And I think because of that and some other stuff, it's just like there were Yeah, and I'm not trying to blow up my ego because you guys know I don't think anything good about my past, but there were just a lot of girls that wanted me that year, you know, and they like made it known to me, and so I literally just broke up with her just so I could be with other girls my senior year of high school before I went to college, and then that really blew up in my face. So you know, it did, you know, that didn't work out well, but yeah, so I made amends to her for just being so callous about, you know, taking this girl who was pristine, you know, and just totally, like, I don't know what you would call, like, just deflowering her, but in, like, the worst ways, you know, just all in one night. And she ended up having, like, sex addictions and substance abuse issues down the road. And so I made amends to her. There was another girl I remember that I had sex with in college. And, dude, this was messed up. Like, I would just call her up for booty calls. And I would go over to her dorm room.
Calls?
Yeah, just like I'd be like, hey, like, can I come over real quick? You know, as in like we're just gonna have sex and I'm just gonna leave right afterwards. And dude, like this girl used to like harm herself. Like she had like cuts down her leg and things like that. Like she was like a gorgeous girl, but she had issues with cutting. And like here I am, I'm this guy. I would go in and just use her body and then leave right after. Like you know, wouldn't take time to. I mean, maybe like 1 or 2 times I'd ask her about like, hey, are you all right? But like, really not much. And I just can't imagine I was helping her. And I think I took her virginity too. So, and you know, that was another girl that I made amends to. I was just like, and yeah, I remember when I called her up to apologize to her, she was like, you know, Cole, you don't need to apologize to me about anything. Like everything we did was consensual. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not saying that, right? What I'm saying is like, one, I shouldn't have used your body the way I did, you know, like you know, like literally just use it and like no relationship after that. But then also, like, you know, it just wasn't human of me to see this person who's clearly so hurt that they were like cutting lines down their entire leg, like scary stuff, and not like really try to comfort her, get her help or things like that. I think her friends were working with her, but you know, these were like some of the amends that I made sexually. And then there were just people in my past that, you know, anyways, so this is the process, right? And that's a crescendo one, but that, I think that process did pave the way for when Christ ultimately delivered me from my addiction, which was, you know, that night where like I gave up. You know, I turned to God and I said, look, I've tried a million things. I've worked through these steps. I tried these diets. I tried, you know, all these different things and nothing's working, right? And so like I'm not smart enough and I'm not strong enough to beat this thing. So I need a little bit of both those things, or it's just something. Just please have mercy on me. Please have pity on me, because you know I just felt like such a wretched creature at that point. Like all I felt worthy was pity, or like I don't even know if I felt worthy of that, but just give me something. And it led to this night where like I was pretty much like vomiting up this prayer convulsively, just saying like I'm begging you, I'm so sorry, you know. Just like squeezing my blankets, like asking him to take it from me, asking him to be healed, like the paralytic or the woman with the blood flow, you know, who'd reached out to touch the hem of his garment to be cleansed. And dude, I'm telling you, in this night, it was like my wish was his commands, and like what I asked, he was gonna give it to me. And I told him, I was like, I never want it to happen again, not one more time. And it's funny, like the day after, that night, I knew it would never happen again. But it's funny, now I stand before you guys here, like, you know, going on 2 years now, and it's never happened again, you know? Wow. Like, God, you know, he keeps our covenant with us. But, you know, I made it, like, right after that happens, I want to say it was like a week, I was going for a run. I had all this energy after I got delivered from this demon, because really that's what it was. It was a demon that was afflicting me. And I believe that pornography is truly demonic, right? For sure. The imagery that we're communing with. And, yeah, I had all this energy. I was, like, going for a run every day. But on one of the runs, I was just, like, stopped. I was like, what the hell? How was that allowed to happen? I was a child. Like, I don't excuse the stuff I did, but, like, no 12-year-old should have been able to have that sequence of events happen to me. Yeah. Where, like, yeah, I talked about these women who I defiled, and, like, that sucks, right? But, like, I got defiled, too. And once again, I'm not excusing my actions, but... like, that shouldn't happen to me, and it wasn't just me. It's so much my generation. Like, I always say to people, like, I didn't know a single guy growing up who wasn't addicted to pornography. I'll talk to other guys, like, dude, I gave a speech to the Knights of Columbus and Villanova University. All these young men, they said the same thing. They didn't know a single guy who wasn't addicted to it. You know?
It's actually insane, yeah. Like, everybody, really.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Which is why it was so shocking to me. Well, one thing on your website, is how the average age was 11 years old, which is why you had that reaction to Sadul as finding out
Yeah.
that he was only like 15.
Yeah.
Which is incredible, right? That's probably one
amazing.
of the biggest, definitely not one of the biggest, but it's a very impactful reason as to why he isn't addicted as of right now, right? And
For
it's
sure.
fucking insane. So why do you think that is in the first place? Why do you think 11 years old? I can't even fathom that to be a reality. Why do you think that's the fucking average?
Well, I mean, you can never underestimate at what age, like children, particularly boys, are going to be interested in something like boobs. Like, I know even from the time that, like, me and my buddies, we were in the 2nd grade, and we got our hands on a Vice City manual for Grand Theft Auto, and there was, like, this cartoon woman in there with, like really big boobs, and we were just, we were eating it up.
That's
like, we
GTA,
loved it.
right?
Grand Theft Auto, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And dude, like, this was the 2nd grade, so what are we, like 7 years old there? It's like little boys, like we're into that stuff really quickly. So it can start somewhere so innocent like that. And that's where it started for me, like when my buddies, like, for the first time typed in xxx.com, and we just saw all these boobs, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I can see boobs like that easily. Like, before this, we would have to get, like, a rated R movie, go to the point where there was going to be a naked girl, and just pause it there. Like, that's what we do, like just seeing it that easily.
Boobs.
That's why the barrier to entry is so important.
It's so important.
I wanted to ask about the that artificial intelligence you were talking about earlier that measures your age.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know, like, how strong is that accuracy?
I mean, it got everybody at the table, but, like, within a span of years. So it said, like, I look really old for my age because of the beard, and, like, I'm losing my hair.
How old
So,
are you?
I'm 29.
I wouldn't say
So,
that.
yeah. Oh, really? Okay, yeah. So it gets me, like, 30. It gives a 6-year span, so it gets, like, 35 to 29 for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, but everybody at the table, like, it had their age in it, you
Yeah.
know? So, you know, it's accurate.
I also figure as
Yeah.
a kid, it's a lot harder to be able to. It'd be easier to, like, detect. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, if a kid is, like, a kid or around the ages of, like, fucking 13 to 18 than it
Yeah.
is to detect if a 29-year-old is around the ages of from
Yeah.
25 to 40
Exactly.
or more.
And that's
So-
what we were saying. We're like, the really crucial demographic of children, it was like, because there were 3 kids at the table. So the guy actually introduced the bill in Jersey that I've been working with. He has 8 kids. Wild, man. He goes to this Catholic family. They don't believe in contraception. Such a great man. But he brought his 3 boys to it, which was so cool, this conference. You know, where everybody else is trying to shield their kids from talking about this issue. Like, these parents are actually deluded to think, you know, if I just don't use the word pornography, then my kid's never going to hear it, and then they're never going to get exposed to it. It's like, honey, your son has already heard the word pornography. He's already watched it. He's probably already addicted to it. Like, I don't know. It's, you know, it's like, this
So
is the
true,
reality.
honestly.
We
Oh,
can
wow.
attest this. We have a 10-year-old half brother, and I don't know what goes down there. I really hope it's all well and good, but the way I hear him and his friends converse, there's just not a chance that something like that is not brought up ever.
No, yeah.
Not
Just
a
because they have a
Yeah.
lot of degenerate conversations.
And it's
like
a very
they,
American thing too, because it's very common for us to say such foul language all the
Yes.
time, and it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's scary,
Yes,
dude, to
yeah,
even
yeah.
think about that.
Yeah.
The fact that our own brother could be on that shit and we don't, like, that is fucking frightening.
Yeah.
And that, I can't even imagine how parents think of
Dude,
it.
by the stats, when you see a 12-year-old kid, like, you have to register it to yourself. I know this is hard, but it's like, that kid's addicted to pornography. Like, the odds are
Yeah.
much greater that he is than he isn't, you know? I think if people see it this way, then what people also have to get through their heads is, this is a child being sexually abused, right? We only think of sexual abuse being reserved for if it's an adult man who's molesting a child. But that's simply not the case. First of all, our laws already have this, that it is illegal to show a minor pornography, right? Everybody can agree. If some 65-year-old man sits a 12-year-old boy down and shows him hardcore internet pornography, that would be sexual abuse.
Yeah.
So I always say, why would it be any different for these companies, which are all run by adults, who know full well that a very large contingent of their user base are children, be allowed to exist and operate as they do, you know? And not be thrown into prison.
That's how messed up it is.
Yeah, it's so messed up. And, you know,
right.
we gotta understand, like, this is like there are some guys that be like, oh yeah, kids watch pornography and like, you know, and they think it's just like boys would be boys, and it's like,
Like,
no,
what the
like,
fuck?
this is child sexual abuse. Like, you have to get that through, because, you know, it's one thing if they're like watching Playboy magazine, even that I don't think is right, but like, dude, they're seeing gangbangs, dude. They're seeing like I don't even want to bring up all the different types. Yeah, like
aggression,
like
physical,
just
verbal
crazy
aggression.
group sex, or like just insane deviant fetishes you can get into, to the degree that a lot of these guys aren't going to be able to get erections. So you know, a full third of men 18 to 24 have erectile dysfunction now.
Wait,
How
what's
insane
the
is that?
What's the
A full third, 33% of men, 18
One of
to
us have
24
it
have
here.
erectile
It's
dysfunction.
not me. Yeah, I know it's not me. I swear, guys.
If
you're
I'll
the
say
one
it.
first speaking about it, it's
Guys,
definitely
I
you.
swear.
It's definitely you.
I'll even just say for myself, I had erectile dysfunction before. That was the first thing that woke me up to how bad this issue
Oh, yeah?
was I was in sexual encounters with girls, like, high school. Dude, I had erectile dysfunction for the first time when I was like 15. I was like going to have sex with a girl.
So
I couldn't
what
get
is
it up,
erectile
you know?
dysfunction?
When you're
can't
when your
get
dick
it
just
up?
you can't get it up.
Can't get
shit.
hard or
Can't
can't
hard.
get erection?
But
Like
like
the
the
same
same
fucking
thing.
thing.
Dude, I can tell you, I've dealt with that shit before
Yeah.
too. Like the first,
really?
yeah.
Dude, that's
I would-
so
Yeah, I feel
awkward.
the same.
Dude, I would be open with my ex-girlfriend about, oh yeah, I watch porn sometimes. And I'd be open with her about that and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, when I go to, do it with her, I can't get it up. What's happening here, right? It's like I'm a 16-year-old. Like my test should be through the roof.
Yeah.
What's happening here? And it's like, it's from the porn. It's like
It's
I don't
from
get
the-
excited from
Yeah.
doing it like this. So it's like I need that more hardcore stuff. So
Exactly.
it's like 16 years old. Imagine that. You already have signs of ED.
Dude,
Right? Imagine
yeah.
how low it can go.
It's insane, man. I mean, we like, and this is the other thing about what sucked about like the age I was exposed and you compared to Stool is like we wired our brains in our most formative years, like when they're programming themselves to be aroused by a computer screen instead of a real life person, and then we find ourselves in sexual encounters with real life people, and our bodies don't know how to respond. So yeah, like once again, like people just can't say that this is like boys will be boys and whatnot. Like this is like a real severe consequence this is having on our relationships and our day-to-day lives. Like it really is similar to the obesity epidemic, where it's just like we have this unnatural form of food that never existed before, right? They didn't have Sour Patch Kids, 100 years ago. And all the different forms of chips, and now we see it's like that. This is why I have a job as a personal trainer, right? I'm just like helping people get free from this stuff and lose weight. It's the same thing with our sexuality. Like we have this unnatural form of sexuality that's at our disposal at any time.
It's almost
And
like sexuality is like deforming. It's like
Exactly.
growing irregular. Now there's
Yes.
like it went from a traditional woman and a man to tranny gangbangs or some shit. Like some like
Dude, yes.
crazy shit.
Well, and that's the crazy thing too. Is like
That's the Sour Patch
like,
Kids of our-
I've met yeah, seriously, that's what that is, the obesity, right? Like when you're addicted to that stuff, that's you, and then when you can't get it up, that's you having the obesity, and the porn itself, that's the Sour Patch Kids. But yeah, it's crazy, man. Like I'm sure you guys have experienced this before. I would say like, man, dude. If women found me as attractive as gay men did, I would be crushing it. It's like, that's how it goes over this. Dude, there were a lot of guys that like hit on me that they like, said they were bisexual. I was like, dude, you're not freaking bisexual, man. Like, I'll talk to you like you're a straight guy. Like, I'm telling you right now, you watch too much pornography. You got tired of like the heterosexual porn, because this is what happens. Like you just always seek out novelty. And now, granted, like glory to God, like I never did this. If I saw anything remotely homosexual in porn, like it like made me gag, and I just had to like click off right away. But for some guys, that's not going to happen, and they just keep escalating. And like one of the things that they make me think, oh, this is just another genre I'm going to go into, is homosexual porn. And then before they know it, they're like starting to have
They
feelings
like
towards
rewire
men.
their brain to be gay.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly. So what we're doing is we're taking men that otherwise would have been totally sexually normative, and we're making into them and like deviate,
confusing them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just with homosexuality, bisexual, transsexuality. I would say, well, and you find this in the men that turn out to be pedophiles and whatnot. These are men who got addicted to pornography when they were very, very young, kept escalating in content, right? They search out this content. I don't know if you ever get barely legal porn, but it's pretty much where the girl's just like right at 18, and then on top of that, she looks really young, and so technically it's legal, but they get, and then eventually they want child porn, and I think we have an issue as a society too, where we'll see somebody who does something bad, okay. Molesting a child is probably one of the worst things you can ever possibly do. Everybody can agree on that, right? But what we love to do is we love to just wag our finger and just like hate that bad person. Whereas Christ never calls us to do that, right? Christ says us to love everyone. And there's a reason for that. There's an actual benefit to having compassion for anyone, even your worst enemies, which Christ has called us to love. Yeah. And that's because when you're going to have compassion, you can, instead of just, because what does that do, right? So I see a pedophile and I just hate them, right? Well, where do we go from there? They still exist. But what happens if I try to look into their life? I try to have some compassion and be like, why did this person? I'm going to assume that this was a good person at their core, because I believe that God made all people in his image and are good. So how did they get to this? And what you'll find is, oh wait, this guy got addicted to hardcore internet pornography in his youth, and it kept escalating. And just like how some addictions lead to drug overdoses, this guy's drug overdose was just that instead of it overdosing himself, he ended up acting on another person, which why I say is never excusable. But oh wait, there's something we can do about this, right? Now that I've actually tried to unpack what led, instead of just assuming this is by nature an evil person, right? I found out what led to the evil action. Now I can actually do something to prevent this evil action from taking place in the future, and thus stop children from getting addicted to porn.
Now, you know what they're doing nowadays? That they're like internet guys, YouTubers are catching pedophiles themselves and beating the shit out of them.
Oh, dude, there are some videos where they're
just beating the shit out of them.
I've seen a short clip. What's his name? Georgie Vitali. Yeah, Vitali. Yeah, you guys probably know that YouTuber. Long story short, yeah, he exposes pedophiles and stuff, and he goes up to them and starts kicking them, even like screaming at them in their face, slapping them too. There was this security guard of his that just took a pie and just like slammed it in his face and all that kind of stuff. And this is what they're portraying on internet. And most of the times, it's young guys watching that. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Because these guys are brain dead. They are just making the type of content that will just only drag immature people, and most likely are young adults. And, they are teaching them that this is what you should do to a person that does something like that. Like, there's no way you can justify such things. Sure, I agree with that 100%. Yeah. But I do not believe that's the way you should treat another human being because they did something like that.
Yeah.
And even though it's harder for you to, care for that person that is doing that with kids, it's very hard. Like, I can't imagine trying to tell somebody that you care about them when they do such things. But I feel like you went back to, that's what Christ calls us to do.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do, because love is greater than hate. Love is greater than those type of actions at the end of the day. So it's like
that person was no better beating that person up.
Exactly.
Like, who was he to judge, right? Even though that's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
He's not the ultimate judge, right?
Yeah.
If anything, if that person would have went on, God would face that person would face God's wrath, right?
Yeah.
Face his judgment,
Yeah.
right? That he's getting thrown into hell at the end if he doesn't even repent, etc. But at the end of the day, it's like
exactly, both.
It's
Everybody.
like sin is sin, right? I've committed heterosexual sin, right?
Yeah.
Other people have hit homosexual sin, pedophilia sin, etc. Right? Sin is sin, right? It's all wrong, right? But we need to come together and be like, what is actually happening here?
And what's the problem?
Instead of just reacting, being reactive. Look, I'm right. Look, I beat the shit out of this
Yeah,
guy.
exactly.
Look at me, guys.
Yes.
It's pride. It's just another sin on top of another sin.
Exactly.
It's insane, and it's like, I understand what they're trying to do. It's like, but it's totally not the way that you should do it.
I don't think they do it the right way necessarily. Spread the awareness, but that's really not how you do it.
No.
At least in my
I understand,
understanding.
if a pedophile is being aggressive, okay, defend yourself. I get that, right?
Yeah,
if
for
he's
sure.
acting like an actual piece of shit, okay, whatever. But to literally I've seen clips
Dude,
of this shit happen.
They make fun of them for content. I have
They
a feeling.
they prank them.
Yeah.
They humiliate them.
Exactly.
And then they beat the shit out of them. It's like,
Are these guys who they're coming out of jail, or
no, they get caught. They get caught
they've
doing
been
it.
caught. So, but
They're being
you
set up,
let the
pretty
legal
much.
process take care of that, right? They're being set up by these guys
they're being
just for YouTube
yeah, exactly.
content. Okay, gotcha.
Well, I wouldn't say just for YouTube content, because that would mean that there's no intention behind trying to spread some kind of awareness.
Yeah.
At least I would hope that there's that part of it out there where it's awareness.
Yeah.
And it's not just for funds and just for the content.
But what they do sometimes, they call the police, and before the police gets there, they have some time, right? Before the police gets there, they start humiliating them. They start
they go
beating them
live
up.
and
that's
have
not
people
good.
make fun of them.
That's insane.
All that kind of stuff. Ask them questions that are actually just I would say very stupid, just
Isn't
to
there other people
call
that
them out for it and
catch
make fun
them,
of
but then they ask questions, because then Vitali's the one that's beating them up, but then there's other guys.
Gideon,
And how is this
yeah.
legal to beat the guy? So the cops are coming and he's assaulting a guy.
Well,
Like,
they're
you're just
saying
not
they
allowed
called the
to do
cops,
this.
but I don't think they did. They're saying they did call the cops, but I don't think they did.
That's crazy. They're just videotape. peeking
Well, I was
But you see,
themselves,
that's the
assaulting
thing.
someone.
You
Yeah.
try to call the
Yeah.
cops.
People are like, oh yeah, he's a pedophile, dude. If you beat him up, that's fine.
I'm the hero here. Look, I beat him up. I
Yeah.
caught him, guys.
They will
Look at
Yeah.
feel
me.
my wrath.
Yeah.
It's just pride, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
I think
Yeah,
that's
you're
what it
right.
comes
It's
down
lust
to.
on top of pride.
And once
right?
again, they don't want to do anything about the root cause of the issue. Yeah, when they're engaged in pride, they just want to feel good people about themselves, and they want to get clicks and attention, right? But at the end of the day,
You know what's the comments? The comments are like, "You're the best. You're the GOAT.
Yeah,
Good
that's
job.
what they want.
I would do this.
Yeah.
I would do that too." And like all this just to justify
There
their
was a
own,
title. I
the other
exposed the
people's
pedophile.
actions.
6 hours ago, it had over 600,000 views. That's a lot in like 6 to 12 hours.
And then
that's a lot.
The issue is it just keeps us spiraling, talking about like pedophilia, which it's a bad issue. Don't get me wrong, but it is peanuts. It is so small compared to child exposure to internet pornography. So I went to this one assembly that they were having at a middle school nearby me. This detective was going to come in and talk about child internet safety, and mainly keeping your kids safe from pedophiles. Like that's something that parents love to talk about, that they're really nervous about. But, at the Q&A afterwards, me and this one woman, we were like, yeah, but what about child exposure to pornography? And even the detective, he agreed. He's like, yeah, it's far more likely that your child is going to get addicted to pornography and that destroy his life than, get molested by a guy. He said that, like, his whole unit in Jersey, they do about, like, one sting operation a year. Where they like pretty much pose as a child to lure a guy in and then they arrest him.
Just
okay,
one?
which is funny. Yeah, it's like, dude, this isn't nearly as prevalent an issue. I'm not saying it isn't an issue, but like we said, like we don't know growing up any guys that weren't exposed to addicted to pornography, and that has severe consequences on your brain. Like think about all the reasons why you wouldn't want a child to get sexually abused, right? You're afraid that they're never going to be able to trust again, right? That sexually they're going to have big insecurities because of that, like their sexual is going to be they're going to have always like anxieties, PTSD. You have all the same things from child exposure to pornography, it's like, and with our sexual trauma, they're both bad, but like, let's say a person gets molested once in their life, right? Terrible thing, right? But, the trauma that I went through and a lot of other guys I know, like, we were getting exposed to severe sexual trauma on these screens, like, 3 or 4 times a day, every single day, and there's just no compassion for that, right? And then you realize, like you guys said, everybody just wants to look like a good person and doesn't want to do anything about it when they're not willing to talk about this issue, right? They just want to belittle and beat up, right, the pedophile, right? But they don't want to see what created him, right? It's almost like they want there to be pedophiles because that's more people that they get to grandstand over and act like they're a better person then, right?
Yeah.
And those people will have their day of judgment who think that they're better than others. We're better than nobody, right?
True.
Yeah.
Wait, why don't those YouTubers just do exactly that? Just hand over those pedos.
So there is one YouTuber doing with another YouTuber that they caught a couple of them. They called the cops, and the cops came and grabbed them. But then there's this one guy that does it with other people. Like there's one YouTuber. I mean, 2 YouTubers that I know that do that. They call the cops. They obviously they catch them. There's other ones that just beat them up. So it's not like everyone doesn't
It's
do that.
different because like there's some people who like actually like okay they talk to the pedophile, they understand like where he's coming from, but then there's the people who they beat the shit out of him, humiliate him, prank him, and it's like what good are you doing for this person and the people watching, right?
Do they hand that pedo over to the cops after?
I don't know. I'm pretty
No,
sure. I don't know if they do.
I
I
don't
don't.
think so.
I don't
If
know.
they don't, then that's so retarded. Because I'm
Wait,
gonna be
they
honest.
might.
George, he was pissing on one of the guys, right, Vitali? Something like that you told him?
Yeah, but it was like it was fake. He
Oh,
just
it was fake.
put a hole in the water bottle
Oh,
and started
God.
like but it was so but it looked so real that you had to like slow it down or like pause it. Or I went in the comment section. Somebody said, "Did you guys notice the water bottle?" Before that, I couldn't really notice it. You know what I mean? So
But anyway,
those
it's
are the
still
things that.
humiliating.
And what are the chances somebody goes in the comments or tries to understand if they're really present?
Yeah.
Very unlikely.
Still
Very
humiliating.
unlikely.
One thing that was also crazy was in one of the videos they caught one. The guy started to like say, "Oh, turn around, I'm gonna fuck you," and he laid him down. And you should have seen the guy, like that was, being a pedophile and stuff. Was a pedophile. He was so scared, like you know what I mean. You could tell that, those kind of things you don't do to them. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. They're a bad person. Whatever they were doing was bad, right? But like you're also, like kind of doing the same thing
Yeah.
too. Like you know what I mean? You don't do that stuff. It's very stupid to do it, to be honest.
Yeah, we have a legal system that will deal with
Bro,
these
just
people.
call the police and hand her over.
If
They
anything,
can deal it better than you beating them up.
you doing all this stuff is actually making it less likely that they're going to get prosecuted. I mean, it's
Yeah,
taking
that's
away
right.
the
That's the
focus
thing.
of what
They
they
don't even call the
actually
cops.
did.
They don't.
Yeah, and that's
They
the
probably
thing.
beat them up and just let them go.
And it's like you said, how do you you don't even know all the time that this person actually is a pedophile. They might just be saying that about him
that'd
and
be
beating him up and
fucking
whatnot. I mean,
crazy.
so it's just, and then then us as people, we're looking at this like getting angry at this guy. For all we know, we're seeing somebody just get bullied and abused also.
Well,
you
the
know?
thing
I
is,
mean,
they do have a
Oh,
proof.
that's a great point too.
But they
Imagine
do have a
you randomly
proof.
beat the fuck out of a dude. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
I mean, I don't think so, but they do. I mean,
You never know.
I don't think so. You never know.
nowadays,
But,
with
Dude,
internet
they just
content,
randomly beat
you
the
just never
fuck
know.
out of
yes,
a
but there's a
random
proof.
guy.
There's a proof that they go on. They use Snapchat. I think they also use Instagram or some type of what's it called, apps.
Yeah.
Where they like text them as they're young, and then they get the response from them, and then they send them what's your address, whatever, and their information, and that's how they catch them.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's all fake. It could be, right? Some of them could be, but like most of them, they actually have evidence of them being pedophiles, and they catch them.
Yeah,
but you
right.
never know that like those messages that they're showing on the screen are even real. You know what I mean? They could get to a point where they're like,
Of course,
all right,
yeah.
it's been tough to find a pedophile lately, so we're just gonna make one up, and then we're gonna beat the hell out of this guy. We're gonna hire somebody, an actor, and then, but still, it's feeding into this like it's almost like a gladiator type of mentality where we're just like fiending off of like seeing somebody get their ass kicked, somebody get humiliated in public. Like it's not good for your soul, right? We want to mourn these things. We want to pray for these people.
From what I've heard,
Yeah.
I didn't go deep down to that guy that does this shit, like that beats up the pedophile stuff. But I also heard from some like normal YouTubers that this guy's fucked up. Like he's not a good person. Let's just say he's not a good person because he also said and
Yeah, he did. He did drugs.
yeah he was DMing some people and he
Okay.
was saying some fucked up shit on Twitter. A lot of people don't like him, so I feel like this guy that does this shit to people, he's trying to that does good image to other people, that person
Yeah.
to
But
make
like-
other people believe that he's a hero and he does this good deeds.
Everyone wants to be here.
But that's
Yeah.
probably because that's coming from him being a bad person, trying to say, oh, I'm a good person, like trying to make himself believe that whatever what he's doing is good, and he wants people to show him love, like
Yeah.
fake love, to be honest.
I mean, it's really similar to a big problem that people see today, and it has its own word, which, like, this wasn't even a word before, virtue signaling, right? Just people are trying to signal what a good person they are, and it's, like, leading to really negative consequences in our society with political correctness, people not being able to speak their mind in the workplace anymore. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you guys won't be able to say in your jobs in the future, if you do end up having an employer, although I know you guys are really big into entrepreneurship. Because of political correctness and people caving into it and people virtue signaling so much. Like, you can only have too large of a percentage of the population doing that before you actually have to censor yourself. And that's what happened now. Like, if you express certain views in the workplace, let's say it's you disagreeing with certain tenets of feminism, you could get fired, and nobody's going to back you up, which is BS.
You portray your beliefs and stuff, or say certain things about your beliefs, you can get fired,
Yeah.
and
blacklisted.
exactly,
Yeah.
and also celebrities and stuff, or football players. Like there was this football player after a match, he said, "I want to, thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ." They cut that out,
Yeah.
the news, and they put the other part in there. They censored it, and then what happens is, for the most part, people want to go out there and say, "Oh yeah, we live in a country of freedom of speech and stuff."
No.
But it's like, are you deluded? Look what's happening in front of
Yeah.
you. Is that freedom of speech?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech is, I guess, given to people, which, like Andrew Tate said this really well, that I agree with 100%. He said, everybody wants to claim that they have freedom of speech in this country to the point where you say something for people and influence over people, then they shut you down.
Yeah.
So it's freedom of speech for those people that don't have really much influence over
Yeah.
people. But as soon as you have some kind of influence over people,
I mean,
the chances of you getting canceled, or the chances of you getting I would say, being shut down is very likely.
I would say
because of
even
that.
the lower level people, though, don't have it. Like, there's a guy in my
Yeah,
church.
right.
He's a great dude. So, Puerto Rican guy, has a black wife. They have a great family. But, like, they're kind of anomalies, right? Because they're, like, really conservative and Republican, like, Trump-supporting people. And they're great people, sweet people. I mean, I think that there are sweet people on both sides of the aisle. But, he says he gets frustrated in the workplace because like he doesn't feel like he has freedom of speech. Like he has to constantly bite his tongue whenever political topics come up. The liberal people can say whatever the hell he wants, but he knows in the back of the head, if he expresses true opinions, he doesn't know for a fact, but he's like, the risk is too high that I could get fired from my job, and then, I'm going to have to scramble to find another job to feed my family. Like, that's messed up. Like, true freedom of speech would look like that it's defended for your career also. So let's say he does speak up and say, like, hey, you know what, I am a Trump supporter, even though I'm Puerto Rican or whatever, right? And, and here's the reasons why, even though, my people come from here, that I still support Trump, right? He should be able to, let's say his employer fires him, be able to take up a lawsuit against his employer, right? And actually, the employer should be the one scared to fire him, right? Because he knows a lawsuit's going to come back. Right? But it's the opposite, right? He knows that he's going to be the one to get fired, and there will be no recourse for him, right? So that's why he's censored. Yeah. And so that's why we don't have freedom of speech. That's why so many people in America today who work corporate jobs, this is our gulag, right? We're not put on labor camps, right? But it is a gulag in a sense that, like, you are constrained in what you can say because you are going to get fired from your job and you could get blackballed from an entire industry, if you don't toe the party line on certain issues.
This applies for both parties too, not just... Okay,
well, I come from this place where I actually think that there's a uni party, that actually controls both parties. It's too conspiratorial to people, but but there's clearly, like...
an agenda?
Yeah, an agenda. Like, you can see, like, they're very... Like, what you'll notice is the right wing, like, they claim that they're pro, social conservatism and then pro free markets and whatnot. But really, they never get anything passed on social conservatism, right? They're pretty much just like liberals from 10 years ago. So, that like no matter what, like, you could have, like, when Trump first got elected, you had the executive branch, the judicial branch, right? You had, the House of Representatives. All this stuff was conservative. Nothing got passed in terms of social conservatism, right? In terms of, like, rolling back gay marriage, things like that. And then similarly, on the left, you have things like, like their platform is supposed to be like social liberalism, but, we're going to crack down on the free market and help out the middle class more. But it doesn't matter if Obama comes in and you have just Democrats all the way through. They never get anything passed cracking down on crony capitalism, which I believe in free markets, right? I think that's the best way to have. But with that being said, like, I do see, like, issues where, like, the elite are doing each other favors and, like, they're stacking so much wealth in their hands, which I don't even necessarily have an issue with. I just have an issue when they use that wealth to impose themselves on us by imposing, like, their degenerate movies, their pornography on us, taking away our freedom of speech, because they monopolize so many industries now. They have so much power that they can leverage it in that way. That's what I have an issue with.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
Yeah, and so that's what you'll notice is, like, it really what the ultimate uni party that donates to both of the campaigns, like, you'll see it's the same donors for both parties. What they believe in is they want crony capitalism and complete social degeneracy. And that's why this anti-porn bill gets opposed so much. You're like, how has this not gotten passed already? 83% of Americans agree there should already be age verification checks on these websites. That's massive. There's no social issue with that level of conformity. Pretty much every social issue is split 50-50 down the middle. Over 4 out of 5 Americans already think it should be this way. And so you're like, how could this not get passed? Well, the people at the top don't want it passed. Because once again, that's their agenda is social degeneracy and, crony capitalism.
I want to know the 17% that said no, it shouldn't be passed. Like, you're asking, like, average Americans, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Not, like, the elite. So what 17% of, like, average Americans actually...
I can tell you, the 13, 18-year-olds.
Yeah, like, is that who we're asking here? I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think some of the people might have issues with, like, they are addicted to pornography and they don't want to verify their age in any way because they don't want their data leaked. But I always say it's like, first of all, you're living in a fantasy land if you don't think that Pornhub doesn't know who you are and Google doesn't know who you are, and then you're visiting these sites. Like, your identity's already completely compromised. Yeah. So you're living in a fantasy land if you don't think that's true. And furthermore, a lot of these age tracks would, I think, protect your identity a lot better than Pornhub, and people like this would, especially with just like it's scanning your face. It's not even asking you for your ID, or the hand gestures one. But even still, let's say we're uploading ID. It's just like I'm sorry,
great.
Yeah, like if you're afraid, you know,
So
offering
at that
up your
point, you
ID,
won't even go on the website.
yeah,
if
then,
you got
then
a
don't go
political
to the
ID.
website. Clearly, you're doing something you're ashamed of. Then don't do it. You know, and that's what actually I think would be great about this legislation. Not only would it protect for children from it, but there's a lot of men that they're like, yeah, man, that would help me to get rid of porn, and that would be awesome.
That
you
would
know?
totally change the way men go about
Yeah.
society
Oh my God,
in this
drastic,
generation
and
as well.
You were addicted till 27, right? 26,
Dude, yeah,
27?
28.
Wow. Holy shit! Like that's fucking crazy. Imagine how many people.
Yeah.
I don't know how the
I
fuck
wanna-
oppose
and
that.
I wanna play out,
17%, bro. Like what?
I want to play out a scenario. So, as I shared before, we have a half brother.
Yeah.
If let's say I was a parent, obviously I'm not, but how would you go about and tell them, like, how as a parent should you be going about? You said that it should be a topic discussed, but how would you go about that as a parent?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't have a kid yet, but like I
he's
would
not a
talk to him about early. Like there are some people that they are
He's
just
educated on his field.
like because I was interested in porn, like I said, when I was 7 years old, when I was in the second grade. So I would talk to them really early, you know, and then that just sets kind of a tone. And yeah, like I would describe how God originally intended sex to be between a man and a woman. And depending on the age, I might not get into like the nitty gritty of it. But, you know, there's this guy, Matt Fradd. He does really good work on fighting against pornography. He's a Catholic guy. You know, he puts it really simple if you're talking to a young kid, in starting with, you know, if you see somebody wearing a clothes, not wearing clothes where they should have a bathing suit, right? You know, so if women's boobs are showing, right, normally they'd be wearing a bathing suit there, then, you know, tell me right away, right? That's where so you want them to alert you. But then also, yeah, I think I would just describe to them straight up that, you know, God intended sex to be a certain way. I wouldn't even be afraid to use that word sex. And I would, you know, and I would tell them that there's deviancies with it, right? So there are industries, maybe I would even use that analogy with like the candy and things like that, where, you know, they formed, because we know at the end of the day, like candy, like you can have it here and then, but it's not real food, right? It doesn't give you real nourishment, right? And so pornography, right? This isn't real sex, right? It's not going to actually satisfy you. It's a bottomless pit that you got to keep filling, right? And yeah, I would just explain to them how there is this new technology that has cropped up, just like with the food and everything else that's hyper stimulating us and addicting us, that isn't the real thing, and it can really harm you. And I honestly, even at a young age, I wouldn't even be afraid to show my kids like videos of me talking about my addiction and things like that and really scare them. I think with that assemblyman who had his 3 boys there to, you know, hear my testimony among all the other people, that's what he wanted. He's like, I want you to see, he didn't bring his daughters, although I think maybe he should have if he knew the stats of girls addicted to it. I think he'd be surprised. But either way, it's just like, what's that?
What's the stats for the girls?
Dude, 60 to 70% of girls, young women, are addicted to internet
Not
pornography.
surprised. They're hornier than men.
That's a
Women
lot.
are
That's a
hornier
lot
than
than I
men.
That's
expected.
crazy.
I'll be honest.
Dude, but even though, like, I don't understand anyone that would be.
I'm
like,
shocked it's that low.
It's taking
I don't know why
10
you guys
girls.
are
It's
shocked
7
at
out of
that.
10 of them.
60, 70s.
I don't understand why
I think
people
so.
are like.
A lot of people think that like no women are watching it, which is
It's
crazy.
the
That's
biggest
so
misconception
stupid.
there
Yeah,
is.
it's a big misconception.
Wow.
I was saying, I don't understand why people would not want to go out and speak about this and spread awareness in
Yeah.
a sense, because like when you think of like public speaking, right, and there's like this isn't anything anyone's proud of.
Yeah.
At least I would hope not. Of course, there's some retarded exceptions, but most people would go out and they'll say, yeah, this is a pretty embarrassing thing. But in
Yeah.
reality, like we discussed earlier, most guys haven't even met someone that hasn't gone through this.
Yeah.
So is it really so embarrassing when every other guy is doing it?
Yeah.
All you're doing is you're going out and you're helping, quote unquote, every other guy.
Yeah.
So what is like? Why would that be embarrassing when the
Dude.
guy you're listening, the
Yeah.
guy fucking listening to you across the room does the exact same thing?
Yeah.
The difference is you're brave enough to actually go and speak about it.
Yeah, thank you, man.
That guy isn't.
Yeah.
So like, what the fuck?
Dude, it's crazy. So, you know, when I was first giving speech about this, I would talk about how the media wasn't talking about this and how it's just like this willful silence, which just disgusts me because, you know, everybody knew when marijuana was being legalized in Colorado, like years leading up to it. You know, it was all people could talk about. And with every state leading up to that, everybody knows about it. But dude, I've given speeches to so many places and I asked for a raise of hands. Like, who knows that this bill got passed in even one state, let alone 19 now, and like not a single hand goes up. Like the media isn't talking about it. I'm just like, dude, that's willful misinformation. You know, they're trying to keep us ignorant. They will cover laws getting passed at a state by state level, and this is such a crucial law, but they're not covering this one, and they know what they're doing. But dude, I'm not gonna lie, like I have been disappointed not only with the media, but churches, school systems. Like I was all the way up, and I was gonna talk at the superintendent. I through working through enough people, I was gonna. I spoke with the superintendent of this really influential school in South Jersey, and the idea was we were going to have an assembly slot for me, like that detective had. He was talking about internet safety from pedophiles, and I was going to enlighten the parents about this bill and show them how they could help raise support for it. And anyways, he told me, he's like, well, you know, I'm going to kick it over to the Home and School Council now. And, you know, we'll just get them on board with it. I'm like, wait, why? You're the superintendent. You have the executive call. You can just give me this assembly slot now. Like, that's just another hoop that we have to run through or jump through that might, you know, just filibuster this whole thing. He says, no, they'll be on board with it. Sure enough, they weren't on board with it. And then he shut it down, yeah. And he says to me, yeah, it's just some of the parents might not be comfortable, you know, with this issue. And I was like, really? I would hope that they would be remotely as uncomfortable with the fact that all their children are addicted to internet pornography as they are with some guy coming and talking about it. And I said, furthermore, it's an assembly of the parents, right, on an off night when the kids aren't there. And the parents who are uncomfortable with it, they can stay home, right? You know, just stay home. Let the parents who want to hear about it come and hear from me. No, they wouldn't give me that opportunity. As a school system, churches not giving me. There was this church that they like help get. They like tout themselves as helping people who rehabilitate from addictions and different things like that. They like I talked to the head pastor there. He was interested in it. Went and talked to his leadership about it. They did not have me the opportunity. Like I had this idea in my head when I started this nonprofit that when people would hear about this, they would just think how desperately needed this issue is, and they would say it's a no-brainer. Like you can absolutely come and speak to my parish about it. That has not been the case, man. Like some guys are, but a lot of people do. They are cowards. They don't want to say anything that would make somebody a little bit uncomfortable because they're afraid that somebody's going to walk out of their parish and that's going to be less donors to their church, and that is just so pitifully, disgustingly cowardly.
Especially with church and stuff, especially with that, and obviously with the school too. I mean, your kids are going to the school where somebody's coming there to spread the awareness that is such deep as porn addiction, and you're not allowing to do that. You're pretty much just saying, no, I do not want you to help these kids for their future. That's literally what you're saying right there, indirectly. And it is really sad. And until people really change that mindset and until people really open their eyes, a lot of these issues are still going to be the same. And that's why I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the Bible verse. Like, people like the darkness more than they like the light. Yeah, these are the manifestations of what people really do throughout the life, whether that be about porn addiction or anything else. People tend to, and I'll be the first person to raise my hand on this issue too. Like, we are just more drawn to something sinful. You know what I mean? Something that's just instant. As much as I also struggle with it and I try my best to overcome those issues, it still doesn't change the fact that we're all, to some extent, you know, very emotional and very emotional to the truth. Like, the truth is something that hurts us the most at the end of the day, and that's just what it comes down to because it's the truth.
Because it's uncomfortable.
Exactly.
I'd like to give my 2 cents as someone that's not a parent as to what they should do if I was a parent. Like,
even though you're not a parent.
Yeah, even though I'm not.
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. But the reason I'm saying that is because, like, in the study that I was talking about, the same girl that interviewed Anna J. Bridges also interviewed another dad. So there's a sense of credibility to this on how he had the conversation with his son about pornography. Yeah. And because, like, the people that didn't want to follow through with it, probably it's because, like what you said, it's an uncomfortable conversation. Yeah. People don't want to hear that, right?
Like my kids don't watch porn. Like, we don't need to talk about that.
It's denial.
My little Jimmy, he's fine in his room, locked in his
door. He's got his door closed. Yeah, he's got his iPad. He's fine in there.
He's fine.
He spends like 5 hours in there. So, like, he's in
I opened up the browser and it took me straight to private, but that's okay, right? Like,
he's on income.
He doesn't know what private is.
But the reason why I'm saying that is because what the dad did to bring up that conversation is, yes, it's a super uncomfortable thing, but like most uncomfortable things, it needs to be talked about because that's what the better is. So what he did is he had that conversation in the car with his son, like on the way to like some sort of football practice, which was like 20 minutes away. The reason for it is because the kid can't go anywhere, right? And it's not like eye to eye. It's not eye to eye, so it kind of like drives some of that comfort closer towards you. That's just my 2 cents because
I like that.
Again, I'm not a parent, but this is coming from a parent.
Yeah.
That's how you would approach it, because that uncomfortable conversation needs to come. And if you're a parent watching this, like, it's just the reality. If you really care for the well-being of your child, like these school donors should, then they would follow through with it.
Yeah.
But they don't, because money speaks louder than truth, I guess.
Well, and even if you are a parent, like, the fact of the matter is we were kids, we were parented, right? So we know what didn't work well for us, right? And so, you know, I think my parents did a great job in certain ways, but in certain ways, even though I don't have kids, like, I know I would do a better job than my parents did, at least on this issue, right? Because I went through it as a child, right? And I know the blocks that I could put in place for it to not happen to them. So, you know, I like I said, I really respect you, Josh, for saying, like, I'm not going to speak on topics that I don't know about. But, there are some things we can say about these things. We have.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying came from
You can always
parents
suggest.
themselves.
You can
Yeah,
always
exactly.
suggest.
And what I'm saying came from the parents themselves.
But so I mean, but that's what I say is like the biggest issue with this is like the way that the devil has worked with something like, you know, abortion, and maybe this is gonna be too hot of a topic for you guys. Maybe you guys aren't all in agreement with this. Obviously, I believe or
This whole, I mean, this conversation's been pretty hot. So keep it going.
But obviously, I believe abortion is totally wrong. But somehow the devil was able to convince literally 50% of our population that it's a woman's right to kill her own baby, right? Which is wild, right? It got there. But the devil hasn't really done that with pornography. With pornography, he doesn't even try, because like nobody thinks it's okay. Like even people on the left wing that I talk to, who are just super liberal, think that it's bad that our children are addicted to this content. The way that he's done it is through this uncomfortable ability. He's just made people cowards talking about it. And, you know, what you said, Sadul, about, you know, the people being attracted more to the darkness than the light. I think an issue is when our minds are clouded with sin, like, we can't see the light, you know?
Yeah, sometimes that is the case.
Yeah.
It's like confusion almost.
Yeah. Like, I mean, this should be so obvious that, one, not only is this wrong, but, like, we got to be doing something about it. And there already is a solution, and we just got to implement it. And it's just about having the will to talk about it, right? But, you know, the people, I think, you know, like for me, I knew, I was like, God, if I can get free of this addiction, I knew this for years going up to it. It's like, I want to help people with it. You know, I want to help other young men get free of it. And, you know, I never thought, you know, it would lead to this where I'd be, you know, touting this age verification bill. But, yeah, like, that's what he gave me. And so I think one of the biggest things that people can do is unaddict yourself to porn. And maybe I need to put that in my so on my website I have a how you can help tab of all these different steps that people can go through to make an impact on this, whether it's, you know, the legislators that they need to contact, you know, how they can volunteer, sharing videos and information about it that I've already created on my website. But, you know, maybe another thing I really do need to put up there is like, and you yourself get unaddicted to porn, you know, because if you're still addicted to porn, you're just not going to see how big of an issue this is, and you're just not going to have the strength to do anything about it. Like, I just feel so strong now, you know, to just tackle these like really big problems that are kind of over my head. But like, I just have faith in God that if I stay persistent, you know, I'm gonna make it work.
The truth will prevail.
It'll happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love how it went.
One more thing that I wanted to kind of mention that is very important is a lot of the times people know pornography is wrong. People know they shouldn't be doing this, but in my opinion, what helps most of the people out, and I've watched videos about it, and a common occurring theme for people that are speaking about it is the shame. Like somehow shaming people about it and putting a seed of fear in them that what it can lead to, right? Yeah. Which I think probably should be talked about more or should be used more, because, you know, it's almost like the person that is still addicted to porn to the point where they are justifying it is when that person has no understanding on what it can do and has no shame of doing it. Or it could just be the second, lack of education on something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, what do you think can we do about, just spreading shame or fear towards those people that can, help them to overcome that? Because I think that is a necessity.
Yeah.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it must be there. It had to be with me for sure. Like, I had to, myself go on there and look up what it would do to me, what it has done to somebody, and, be honest with them and say, okay, this is shameful, and I'm a loser for doing this. I had to tell myself this because that's true, and a lot of people should be able to say that to themselves more openly because that's the truth, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you can tread carefully because sometimes when people are like too shameful about it, they keep staying in the dark about it. I think what would help is if we all acknowledge like, this is a collective problem so many of us are struggling with,
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for myself is like realizing like, look, my actions I took in my life aren't excusable. With that being said, what happened to me shouldn't have happened, right? And so, like, giving ourselves some grace, like, all of us have been lured into just an insane sexual culture that's never existed before. Like, I always like to say, like, that our great-great-great-grandparents, right, they grew up with problems that we didn't have, where, like, maybe actually getting food was hard to come by, and I mean, they actually had to forage and things like this, that problems that we just haven't had. Food is a given for us. Shelter is a given. But, I wouldn't go so far as some people would just, like, totally denigrate our generation and say, oh, we're just so lazy and stupid and things like that. And it's like, no, like, we actually really do have legitimate problems to struggle with. But they're just different problems. They are these problems of hyperstimulation and addiction. And pretty much, like, every category of life has its own version of hyperstimulation and, like, its own, manifestation of the ultimate consequence of that addiction, whether it's what happened to me with sexuality, whether it happens to somebody with obesity, or, and so, or just wasting their time playing video games all day and, waking up one day and they're 40 and it's like, damn, I missed out on having kids. You know what I mean? Like and these are real problems that we have to fight against because they really do draw you in. So we can have some compassion for ourselves about like how severe the addictions we have to cope with, and also how unprecedented they are throughout history, and therefore how ill-equipped we are to deal with them. But then at the same time, I think you're right. Like, we have to acknowledge that what we're doing is wrong, if we're ever going to change it, have that compassion, like I said, but then ultimately work to get free of it if we're ever going to get, free our children and free other people from it. So I don't know if that exactly hit on what you were saying. With
Yeah,
shame
well,
and
kind
things
of,
like
yeah.
that. I mean,
I understand
kinda
where
get
you're
what
going
saying.
with it,
Like,
yeah.
people at least need to see that it's wrong. I guess if that's what you're saying. Like, some people don't have even
Yeah.
any shame about it. And you're saying,
Right,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, you at least have to first see it's wrong if you're ever going to make any change on it. So
For sure.
I agree with that.
And what I was trying to get at is like people just need to more push out the idea of how bad it really is, and just like planting that seed, and eventually that seed growing to the point where they're really able to see, okay, what I'm doing is really wrong and really just shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, I agree.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think we should choose 3 questions.
Yeah.
Say so. Let's do it. We have 3 questions we'd
Oh.
like to ask
Okay, gotcha.
our guests. Just
One of them is already kind of answered, but
but still, go ahead.
yeah.
It's. I actually kind of forgot the first question. What is it? What's your? Do you guys remember the first question? Any of you?
What is your best advice to?
Yeah. What is your best advice to somebody in life?
I mean, find God. That's what I believe life is all about. I mean, once again, I thought life was purposeless before, and when I found him, wow, life is so filled with purpose. I was created by a God in his image, who not only did he create the universe and create me, but he actually cares about me. When something bad happens to me, he feels bad for me, right? When something good happens to me, it's and he loves to see me growing as a person, but most importantly, growing towards him. And everything I do in life is for that ultimate purpose. And, it's like Christ says, he who loses his life for my sake will find it. And I have found my life losing it for Christ. I have just so many beautiful friends now. I have such a great relationship with my family. You know, and I just have so much drive and hope for my country, and you know what I can do for fight for it. And all that comes from him. You know, all that comes from this ultimate perspective that life isn't meaningless. You know, and what I do matters. If you're a complete atheist nihilist, you're not even going to see a reason why to get free from porn. Like St. Paul says it, right? You know, if Christ isn't risen from the dead, right, that's ultimately what trailblazed the way for us to go to heaven, was him dying and resurrecting to death. So we can now be resurrected to everlasting life, right? Yeah. If he didn't resurrect from the dead, then what good is it? Like, we might as well drink and be merry and have sex and things like that. It's all useless. And these were the conclusions I was coming to before I met Christ. But, you know, when I realized that all that was a lie and I just go deeper and deeper in my faith, it's just incredible how it shapes me and it shapes my desires. Like, the girls I'm attracted to, I used to be attracted to some trashy women. Now I'm attracted to such high quality women. And sometimes people might be like, dude, that girl's not as hot as this girl. I'd be like, dude, I could care less, because this girl has an incredible soul, you know? And, you know, while maybe all you guys care about is having good looking children, I want to have children that have beautiful souls that are going to go to heaven, you know, and that are going to contribute to our country and make it a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love that. I never even thought about putting it like that, actually.
Yeah, you know, and all this perspective, it all comes back to him, you know, how I orient my career, how I orient my relationships. And so, yeah, that's the best advice I could give people is, you know, find our Lord and grow towards him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yo, Cole, I want to ask you real quick, because I had a question from YouTube, and try to answer this as like, as easy as you can, but it says, I'll read the name out loud. It says from CJT Brugger. I'm not even gonna even bother.
Try your best.
Yeah, it's not even a name, but he asks, I don't know what finding God means. Like, how would you really describe to someone, like, okay, what does it really mean to find God?
So, like, when God literally revealed himself to me. Now, for some people, it's not as dramatic as that. Like, I have my buddy Tyler, which you guys know is Marion. Karami's a mutual friend of ours, his sister. But anyways, for Tyler, it's like a slow process. Like, he doesn't have like any one moment where he found him. It seems like he was just like growing towards the church over time, and then just eventually knew, like, wow, this is actually true. And I have a client who I brought him through that. Every single one of my personal training clients, I ask them to read the Bible with me. Some people take me up on it, some people don't. But, you know, one of the first guys I did with it, he's a young guy like yourselves, 21 years old now. And, like, we just read through an entire gospel together, start to finish. That's always a place I tell people to start. And then he came to church with me a few times and whatnot. And then one day, like, it was funny, like, we had been having these talks about, you know, first, a lot of times, especially when I'm bringing somebody from atheism or agnosticism to God, like, I will start with just certain apologetics for the existence of God. Yeah. And so we had done that, but then eventually you have to experience it, right? So we read through a full gospel, we experienced the church, and then one day we were talking about it, and he just, like, out of the blue told me, he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like 80% true. Like, I don't know, he says, he's like, I'm 80% sure it's true. And this is somebody who was an atheist, like not long before he had started trade. So, like that's an incredible progress in that time. So, anyways, what does it mean though to find God? So let me answer that question better. It's like after Christ was revealed to me the first time. So there's two pivotal moments I had with God. First, he revealed himself to me, and then he healed me, which I expanded a little bit more on when he healed me. But let me talk a bit more about when he revealed himself to me. So that happened this night where I sat down with pencil and paper to hammer out what was going to be my life's purpose, because that was terrorizing me, right? And then I was struck with a vision of Jesus Christ being crucified in front of me. And he was like burning on the cross with all the sins of the world on him. You know, it was like, and like when I saw him, I felt in my bones that he was the Son of God, which is crazy because I was a lifelong atheist. My parents are still atheists to this day, you know. I didn't even know who Jesus Christ was, you know. But in this moment when I saw him, I knew in my bones he was the Son of God. And then I confirmed with the Christians afterwards. They're like, yeah, that's what we call him, the Son of God, you know. But anyways, like I had that experience and it just transformed me. Like I immediately knew heaven, hell were real. I got on my knees and started begging for forgiveness. And then, yeah, just all this information just dumped into my head. Like, the Bible is the Word of God. Sex before marriage is bad, right? And so, but it was funny, like, after that, like, I was just like, man, I've been searching for this purpose so long. I hope I never lose this. but it was like something was inside me that just like wouldn't be shaken. And I remember I was walking down the aisles of this grocery store maybe like a week after that, and there was this kind of like love in my heart. And it was so strong. Like I had to like pause in the middle of the aisles and like catch my heart because it was throbbing with this like reverberating love so strongly, you know. And it's not like that at all times anymore. Like that was really intense, but it's always there. Like there's this love in me reverberating in my heart. And so, you know, we call that the Holy Spirit, like indwelling within you. And you'll kind of like know it when it happens. Until that happens, you just got to keep pursuing him. Like you've got to read a gospel.
You have
start
to
finish.
find him to find him. Right?
Yeah.
You to like want to seek, and
Yes,
you shall find.
Exactly. Yeah, some people I think they're expecting to like not do anything. I mean, I was kind of lucky, right? Like my faith was kind of just handed to me on a surface. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I actually was going to church with some Christians that were inviting me out with them. You know, I was in the South, in Charlotte, North Carolina for 4.5 years. I just knew it was a big part of the culture down there. And some of my clients, they would invite me to church with them. And at this point, I wasn't so, like, because I used to be, like, a militant atheist who hated Christians. And at this point, I didn't hate Christians so much. I was willing to go. And I was like, oh, it would just be good for building community and whatnot. And I just noticed when I was there, I was like, so I don't believe any of this stuff. First of all, I don't believe there's a God, let alone that God became a human being. You know? Yeah. Like, sounds like, there's no way I believe any of this stuff. But there's a lightness here, you know, there's a wholesomeness here that I don't find anywhere else. Like everywhere else I go, like the place that I was spending my time, nightclubs, things like this, is like just always this like dark, sinister vibe, you know, even the people I was surrounding myself. But like in this one place, like I felt safe. Like it just felt like the opposite of a nightclub. That's the only way I can describe it. And so I was like, that's interesting. And so, you know, I was willing to put myself out there, and it might just start there for things like that, for, you know, the persons that are on camera. It's like, just start there and just notice that lightness, that wholesomeness, and just keep going and, you know, reading the Word of God.
So it's like an awakening or like a realization. It's like, oh, wait, what is happening here? Like you feel the energy.
Yeah, you feel it. And yeah, and I think you just keep putting yourself that eventually, like, if, you know, we would say this in AA, like, if you are willing to reach out to God, He is more than happy to meet you more than halfway. Like, He is going to meet you halfway. So if you put it out there and, like, eventually you're going to meet this crescendo moment where you are going to have that spirit in you and this reverberating love in your heart.
It's almost like, number one, wanting to seek, and the next being open to Him revealing Himself to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you really answered that really good. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just also want to bring up a quick point about like tying this to porn addiction and stuff. One of my best advice to somebody that's going through porn addiction would also be, you know, go back to the point of God. Is, you know, a lot of the times people try to battle these type of addictions by themselves and stuff, and trying to overtake it. I think, like you said, it got to a point where you just said, you know, God, like, just take it away from me. Like you were to the point where you just knew it was unbearable. Yeah. And I feel like if people understand the real side of how bad it is and how strong it is, and how demonic it really is to the core, like, you know, the only one that can really free you from this, like, fully, is God. And like giving it up to God with all the power that He has to do that. Just like how you said, like, in seconds. I've heard stories where people, like, this guy in our church, Eugene, he just said in one day, like, he was like, I can't describe the feeling, but he said it's like a lightning hit me, and I was just cleansed. Yeah. He said this, and it's like, yeah, you can be skeptical about it, sure. I was just like, wait, can you kind of like tell me more about how that occurred? Like how is that possible, right? It's almost unimaginable, but you know, that's the power of the Holy Spirit. Yeah. That's the power of God, like just seconds. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It can happen that fast. So, you know, giving it up to Him just really acknowledges that, you know, you can't bear it. It's you really want to overcome that problem. You really want to be free from it. Yeah. Just like the same concept. It's like, how do you find God? Yeah, it is a hard question, but it's like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want a relationship with anything in life? Not just God, but how bad do you want something to get it? You know what I mean? How much are you willing to go for it? That's what it comes down to with God. I think it is really similar.
Rely on God.
And I don't know what the quote isn't about, but it's like, those who seek the kingdom of God, all shall be given to them, right? It's something along the lines of that, right?
Yeah. Well, like
those who seek the kingdom of God, like, you'll be given something like that.
You said it right.
Did I say it right?
Yeah, like
I think
asking
it was
you shall
pretty close.
receive, seek and you will find. Like he's going to give you what you need, as long as it's according to your will and your salvation. He is our best salvation, like, at heart. And, I think he gives us these struggles because he wants us to rely on him. I think that's the beauty about our world. Like people ask, like, why is there any suffering? And it's like, well, the reason is, I can't say the ultimate reason because I'm not God, right? But I think that part of the reason is because through suffering, there's a reason for us to all relate to one another. Like, people struggle with their weight now, right? Because of all the food and things like that, right? So I have a job, right? So there's a reason for people to have a relationship for me. And now I can help them and they help me with paying my bills and things like that. And that's beautiful that there's a reason for us to interact with each other, right? God could have made it to where nobody had issues with food, right? But then there wouldn't be that reason for a relationship, right? God also could have made it so that we all love using Microsoft Excel, and therefore there's no reason for accounts. But he didn't, right? And so now there's a reason for there to be accounts. And so I just say, furthermore, God made us, life like we would have struggles and opportunities for us to rely on him, right?
Yeah.
And when we rely on him, there's this beautiful moment where like he's gonna reach out and help you, and you're just like, dude, like my past sucks, man. It was really, really, like a lot of bad stuff happened to me. But with that being said, like I am just so in love with God, it's ridiculous, And so people ask, you love this God, why he put you through all that stuff? That thought's never gone through my head once, and all I can say is, hey, his plan, it worked out pretty damn well, because I couldn't imagine loving God any more than I do, I got put through a lot of suffering, but I reached out to him for help, and he helped me, and,
And it's like,
fruits
look
are
what
in my
you're doing
face.
now with
Yeah.
that suffering. That's what brought you to wanting to help other people and change the whole concept of, what being holy person really means. So, it's really deep. Thank you for sharing that. So, the second question is, what is that keeps you going in life? What's your drive?
I mean, yeah, I would of course say that like the ultimate purpose is God, but like let me give another like just slightly different answers. Like I would really consider myself a patriot, like I love my country. I hate what it's become in a lot of ways. I feel that we export degeneracy across the entire world, and we kind of have the entire world under our boot to a certain degree. But with that being said, like I love America. The founding of this country blows my mind that people came across an entire Atlantic Ocean to start a life in complete wilderness, and just built this beautiful country that we see around us, like within the span of like a few hundred years. Meanwhile, Europe's been around for so long, and just the innovation that's come around, like in our country, how gorgeous our country is, from Yosemite to Yellowstone, and we just have so many amazing
Rainer.
parks. Yeah, I mean, it's seriously, I mean, it's a gorgeous country. I actually, people ask, like, what is American culture? I think that we have, one of the things I love about American culture is one of the things that you guys all have in common, that you love entrepreneurship. One of my ex-girlfriends from Switzerland, she said, like, if you try doing what you did, where you start your own business, things like that in Switzerland, like, people would judge you so harshly. Everybody would be gossiping about you, just waiting for you to fail. And it's like that in a lot of places. In China, it's like this hive mind, and, like, we live in this incredible culture where, like, you guys are trying to start your own thing, and, like, a lot of people are like,
Embrace
go
that.
you. Like, just, like, I love that, man. Like,
Exactly.
no judgment, especially, like, even if you try and fall, and then you try again. Like, I don't care that you fell. I just love that you tried. And, so I love our country. I also just, like, love my people, Like, I really do, especially when I got rid of the porn. Like, I just want to see the best for all of them. And so, this, like, that's what drives me. Like, I like, sometimes I, like, pray for ego. I'll pray to God. I'll just say, like, please let me die for my country, please let me die for my people. Like, I will take this thing to the absolute ends to get this bill passed, and, like, I don't even know, like, if one day, like, I went after a political career, like, there's kind of, like, little thoughts in my head, like, at some point, I might go for something like that, and it's just, like, freaking, if I got assassinated or something, like, I don't know, these are really grandiose thoughts, it's like, I would love to die for my country, just in any way I could, and stand for, what I know is healthy for them. I think that's just been lost, like, it just, like, annoys me so much when people on the right and the left, all they're doing is talking about materialism, right? Like, oh, but this economic policy, this social policy is, going to drive up GDP. Yeah, but is it making our people healthier and happier? Like, that's never talked about. It's always just economic, right? The fact of just whether or not a certain policy would make them healthier, happier, that's never thought about. And that kind of just drives me, just like in any way I can. And, I just shared some like really grandiose thoughts with you guys, but even if all that happens to me is as small as I help, like I'm not even single, because I can never single-handedly do this, but I just help to get this bill passed in New Jersey, and that protects some children from what I had to go through, then to me that's a blessed life. I contribute towards the health and happiness of my people, and those are the people I love and I want to live for.
I love it.
It's amazing.
I do want to say the entrepreneurship thing is definitely a little flawed, though, because even in America, you're going to get judged regardless. Yeah. Of course, whatever upbringing you come from. But in Europe, it's a lot different because their currency is nowhere near as strong as the dollar is, at least for now. It's not looking in the greatest direction, or it's not headed towards the greatest direction. The currency is so much stronger. Networking capabilities. There are more millionaires in like America, business owners in general in America than there are in any other country. Yeah. And some of that statistic is also like even a little fucked up too, because a lot of the millionaires moved out to foreigner countries once they made their millions here. There's just so much more to offer in terms of like when it comes to like core business strategies and like connections, currency, resources, especially like there's a reason why America is called land of the opportunity, land of the free and land of the opportunity. So it's a great.
Yeah.
What do you think is one problem that we're facing in today's society, and how can we overcome that? It's funny because we are talking about one of the issues.
Is that the question you were talking about?
Makes sense. That's what I was talking about.
So that's obviously
maybe something else.
What's something else you notice that people battle with a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I guess what I just wish people understood is, the reason why people are unhappy in America today, and that's also something I would say that, like, just people, they're not being told. They're all being told that, like, if you're unhappy, you're whatnot, like they just go to self-help books, and it's just like, okay, this is how you can think differently or change your life, and it's like, no, like, there's good reason to be unhappy today. People don't know their neighbors anymore. Our communities have been hollowed out. There's a mass, like, you'll go to festivals, like, for a community, and nobody's talking to each other. People are just eating and going. And if you try to take it upon yourself to actually introduce yourself to a new person there, to get to know somebody in your community, they would look at you like a weirdo. I would know because I've done it, Like, or it's just not really strongly received. You don't form a relationship. And it didn't used to be that way. In this country, people, they don't realize, like in our grandparents' generation, you would just walk into somebody's house, like your neighbor's house. You wouldn't even knock. You guys were that close. That is so far from what we have today. And today we're so disconnected and segmented, and this was making people so unhappy. And, just the more moral degeneracy that we're being downloaded with, not only with pornography, but, people like Cardi B being propped up as role models, right? The movies that it's just, it's just degenerating our brains in every which way and bringing us away from that which is wholesome and good. And so I was making this case to my parents, and I make it to you guys today. It's like, the problems that we have today aren't economic, they're moral. Pat Buchanan is actually, the first one I say this, but it's genuine. I feel and believe. It's just crazy when I hear in the presidential debates people complaining about inflation. It's like, who cares? Like, you can buy everything still. Like, our standard of living has only gone up, If you look at the cars that we drive, the food that we eat, the houses we live into, it's just getting bigger. We are so many generations buffered away from actually having to forage for the bare necessities of food and shelter, which that's what people think. They're like, inflation, I'm not going to be able to feed my family. Dude, I was just on a mission trip in Mexico. Like, we built a house for this family, beautiful family. They had $2 and whatnot. With that being said, they were all overweight, like good people. I'm glad we got to provide experience for them, but like nobody's going hungry. People have like the issues we have today are a severe lack of love and community. And I think if people understood that, we could really start spending time and energy and focus confronting the real issues that would make us happier instead of spinning our wheels just talking about economics over and over and over again,
Just doing nothing.
Yeah. It's we don't have it's just not as severe as people think it is.
It's like they don't see the abundance.
Yeah.
They don't see the abundance around them or in the world.
Yeah, I was like, it was so funny. I looked around my parents' house like, I don't know how to make it clear to you. Like, we're okay,
You're gonna die.
I don't know how to give you, you're not gonna starve, But you are unhappy. It's just like my parents. They don't have a church. They don't have any community. You know, like everybody sees their friends, and you guys. I mean, you guys are still kind of young, so you're not gonna have as much experience with this yet. But like a lot of people, they see their friends like once a quarter. Like getting together with friends, it's such an arduous task. You're like, what does your calendar look like, 5 weeks in advance? And you're like, okay, so I'm calculating this. If we keep planning things like 2 months in advance, we're going to see each other 6 times a year max. Is that really a relationship, And why do we have to plan it so far in advance? It's because everybody's freaking hooked on their technologies. Because everybody thinks that I'm going to have more fun watching my screen than actually being with other people.
But I'm so busy, Cole.
Yeah, I'm so busy. Yes, thank you. Yeah, all that
Their
nonsense.
screen time's like 6 hours.
Yes. Yeah. Well, with the I'm so busy, it's like we have this like incessant work culture, and once again, I love the entrepreneurship, I love the innovation that's come out of this country. With that being said, like it can just get to be like too much, Like it's not a virtue that you work so hard you miss your son's baseball game. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not cool. Like some guys try to flex, like, oh, I work 80 hours a week. Yeah, but that's like not cool, right? Because that means that you're not spending time with your family, right? So
it's like you're chasing money for what? Like what is really like what you're chasing? Or something that's fleeting? Something that you live in abundance? You already have an abundance full of. Like how much money do you really need? Yeah. Right?
Dude, I had enough money, like, once again, this is a brag, it's like 60 grand ago, It's like, I remember when I first started my training business, it wasn't like I was making a ton. I feel like I was making like 50, like maybe like 60 grand a year, and I was like, this is more than enough money. I'm living in a really nice apartment complex right now, and it's just, yeah, it's just excessive greed. And really what it does, it comes from, and bring it back to the first question, this lack of connection with God and therefore a distorted perspective. People are feeling insecure and they feel like they don't have self-worth. And so they believe, they truly associate their number in the bank account with how much value they have as a human being, right? And so they think if they just keep driving up that number, that eventually I'm going to be a good person and people will like me. They're going to want to spend time with me. Not realizing that just chasing that number in the bank account all day is the one thing that's keeping them from people liking them and having relationships with them. Because they just don't have any time to spend with anybody. So those would be the things we've just got to fix, like even more than the porn thing. I think that this would help from people just being enlightened to the porn issue is, the problems that we have in this country are not economic, they're moral,
Spiritual.
We got that. They're spiritual, yeah. And
for sure.
So we get
well
that.
said.
Happy away. Thank you. Appreciate it.
What about the question from our previous guest? So we have a question from a previous guest, and then you will choose a question to ask our next guest.
Okay.
Not knowing who it's going to be, but
that's cool.
just something.
Anything you want to ask.
This is a cool podcast, you guys. I like these questions, man. Yeah.
This is an interesting question. Do you dream in black or white, or do you dream in color?
I'm pretty sure it's color. Yeah, I dream in color. Right?
Great.
Do you guys dream black and white? Or I feel like it's really
Color.
vivid, my dreams.
My dreams are
so
colorful.
weird. That's why I was so confused.
No, mine's
because he
colorful.
asked that. Yeah, exactly.
I thought everyone's
They're like
colorful.
really vivid, yeah.
I thought so too, but Jesse said he
But
has
did
some
you
black
ever
and white
dream in black and white?
That's
That
why I
you
said
I
remember?
think
Oh,
advantage
yeah.
is it always feels really realistic to me.
That would be fucking scary.
Yeah.
Black and white
Yeah,
world.
Yeah,
that
that
does
would have
sound
a
scary.
survive to it. All right, so now I have to come up with a question to ask the next
Yeah.
guest.
You don't know them, so.
All right, yeah, maybe I would.
What did you get off your
Let me ask them off that question. So from that one, I'm gonna force them to answer this. Do you think the problems in America today are economic or moral? What's the greater problem? Is
Okay.
Economics or morality?
Wait, do you think it's
More people need to
you
talk
throw in
about
the word
this.
greater? Make sure you throw in the word
Yeah.
greater.
What
Do you-
is the greater problem?
In America.
It's not that you don't have more money. It's
Is
the
it-
fact that
is
you're
it
just
moral?
you just don't have people around you.
Yeah,
Moral
such a lack of love.
moral issues or economic? Is that what you're trying?
Yeah, moral. Yeah, I'd say moral / communal. I think two kind of tie together. But
Yeah, and then when we
it's our
ask the-
degenerate society and it's our lack of community that I really
Right.
think is terrorizing.
And I was
But yeah.
thinking when we do ask the question, obviously, we're gonna mention how you said love, community, just really being around each other more and just showing more compassionate, ethical, like these type of stuff versus the materialistic and economic and all those problems, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The quote of the day.
Let's go. We
like
like our
our
guests.
to read it.
Okay.
3.
All right. Quote a day. All right. None can destroy iron but its own rust can likewise. None can destroy a person, but his own mindset can.
Yeah.
I like
This
that.
should've
That was a
gone
good
right.
quote.
Keep the comma not in the right spot.
I didn't like the quote.
That's what it said. That's what it said.
What would you say, Josh? Who wrote the quote?
I know he likes that.
Didn't you pick it?
I would have liked it if I picked it.
Oh.
No, he likes it. He's just playing.
Yeah, it's because of the.
And then shout out of the day. I got this from. So I asked my community on YouTube to give us some questions for you. They said, "How do you find your passion? What do you do for a living to support you to pursue your passion and time management?" I mean, you can. We've already had a long podcast, but you can kind of just answer this the best that you can. And when we have you on again, we can go more into, more about your career, more about you dropping out of college and pursuing your passion. But
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. You guys are cool guys. Yeah, I would definitely be happy to come back.
We would love to have you again.
Yeah.
Articulate, smart.
oh yeah, shout out to
Talented.
Novak9853. I don't
What
really
else
do
are
this,
you
but
missing?
It was so I'd say to find your passion. I think you got to think about what do you do when you're like wasting time, which might sound weird, but like for me, growing up, like I thought like going to the gym all the time, whatnot, like really what I was supposed to be doing was studying, and I really did used to study a lot, but that was like how I blew off steam. Like it should be the thing that's just effortless for you, right? And so like even my brother, he was like, yeah, but I don't have any passion, and I was like, Russ,
Flow state test,
you
right?
know more. Was that
A flow state test.
yeah. Oh, sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
I was saying, Ross, you know more about the UFC than anybody I know. Like, you could start a UFC podcast. That's literally what you do when you waste time, is you're just, like, checking every single thing there is about this sport. Like, if you want to create a career that you're passionate about, that could be one. You just find that thing. Like, what am I wasting time with? Quote-unquote wasting time, because really it's not a waste of time. Like, this is your passion, right?
Yeah.
And
so you're gravitated towards it.
Yeah, and then figure out how you can provide a service through it, right?
Because there's so many jobs, like with the internet especially, you can solve
Dude, so many
anyone's problem.
opportunities.
People have problems with I can't seem to learn how to click my mouse. Yeah, you could. I mean, if you're passionate.
No,
about that,
people do struggle with like technology and stuff.
Yeah, you can help them with that, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different jobs that are made out, especially in a like this capitalistic society. So
Yeah.
You can't get them to buy your course if they can't even click on it.
yeah,
But I mean, then comes to the question, like, not every single person can be a gamer. So if you're always wasting all your time playing video games, but there should be just like another thing that you're kind of drawn towards more effortlessly. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, just find out what that thing is. And then you said, what do you do for a living to support your passion? Yeah, so I mean, the way that I do that is simple. Like, everything that I'm passionate about, I make into a career. So, obviously with the fitness, I'm a personal trainer. And then also, I don't make as much money, although I do make money off of this. I love dancing, pretty much, like, throughout my late teens or 20s, like, I would go to concerts and clubs, and people would just they would ask me if I was a professional dancer. I'd never really taken any dance lessons before, but it's just kind of like the way the body the music flowed through me. And so at a certain point, people making that comment, I was like, okay, I think that this is a gift that God gave me, and so how can I use it to help other people? And so that's when I started Wholesome Dance. So that's my dance ministry where we play like just positive music, void of any explicit lyrics, anything hypersexualized. It's just good stuff. And I teach people actually like skillful partner dancing, because that was the thought I had. It's like, okay, I love to dance, but is there really an opportunity to fill a void in my society just through individual dancing? And I just didn't see as much, whereas partner dancing I think is so missing, whereas so many other cultures, like in Latin America and places like this, that's built in our culture, but we've really lost that. So I wanted to bring that back, and so I kind of came up with my version of, I call it like freestyle partner dancing, where I just pick out moves that I feel like are really fun and flashy, but simple and easier for beginners to pick up on. Mm-hmm. And I just noticed it's like, it sucks that all of us have to meet on online dating apps, I'm tired of that. So I want to provide an opportunity where people could actually meet somebody of the opposite sex at a dance, which is how people really used to meet back in the day. That's a prime location for it.
A lot of people did know how to dance too back then, more than they do now.
You want to teach me how to dance right now?
I would need a girl. But yeah, that's I just the guy at the venue that we host our dances at, he charges $10, and Like he takes half a cut of that, and then me and my partner, who I was stands we take that. And it's not a big amount of money, but
It's
you know,
fun,
that's me
dude.
just
Yeah.
taking a passion where like, you know, I get to live out my passion. It does make a little bit of money for me. So, you know, the first guy that I really thought of who did this was, you know, Joe Rogan. It's just like every single thing he's passionate about, he made in a career. He just like having conversations with people. He revolutionized podcasting, you know. He loves
Is he really
UFC.
the one that made it popular?
Dude, he's
Oh,
and he's the
absolutely.
biggest
Oh, yeah?
podcaster
Okay.
in the world.
JR.
You know, he loved UFC and he became a commentator. You know what I love about Joe Rogan, and I kind of do this similarly for my ones, is you just start off doing it for free, kind of like you guys. You're just doing it for free, and eventually, you know, it does make money. Like his, I think, first like 100 appearance in the UFC as an announcer, he didn't get paid anything. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, there were just so many events. Support was getting so popular, and he's just doing so much work. And they're like, okay, I think it's about time to get paid. Same thing with a podcast. Everybody's saying to him, who the hell is going to listen to a 3-hour podcast? Like, you got to clip this up. And he's like, well, whatever. Then people aren't going to listen to it. Then so
Yeah,
be
that's
it,
fine.
right?
I had a great time doing it,
And
right?
then sure enough, now everybody listens to his 3-hour long podcast, you know?
And he's got the voice too, you know.
Yeah.
Like for UFC and stuff, when he
I didn't know-
commentates,
are-
he's got that voice that
Yeah.
really.
Well, and just
Joe
a real
Rogan?
zeal
Yeah.
and excitement for the sport that's unmistakable.
Are you
For
sure,
sure.
we're not mistaking Joe Rogan for Dana White right now?
No.
No,
No,
Joe
no,
Rogan.
Rogan
He's an
is an
announcer for the
announcer?
UFC.
Yeah,
Jay
yeah.
Wright's the owner.
I had no idea.
Hits him with the
I used to think they were the same
He's so
person actually because they
passionate,
kind of
so-
He's
look
so
alike.
passionate.
energetic, yeah.
And then he loved comedy, and he's a stand-up comedian. So literally
Oh, that's
every
it.
single thing he's passionate about, he made a career. And I just look at myself. It's like, okay, what are the natural skills God gave me? God did not give me every skill. While I might be a good dancer, I suck musically with instruments, so I can't do anything with that, right? To contribute. It's like, so you know, then yeah, I came up with hosts and hits. I'm a passionate speaker when it's something I care about, right? People always say to me, they're like, wow, you would make a great salesman. I'm like, I don't know if I would, because like I can't sell something I don't believe in. But if I truly believe in something, I think I can express that to people. And so, you know, then I have my nonprofit with, you know, pornography addiction, because nothing devastated my life, you know, more than anything than that. And I, you know, truly believe in this legislation being a big part of the solution. And then with my training, so it's just, yeah, like the easiest way is to just make your passions into your careers.
Yeah, I
Said
love
and
it,
done.
dude. I love it, yeah. And it's how, like, it's easy to do it when you fucking love it. Like, you're going to do it for free anytime.
Exactly.
Like, who wouldn't
Oh,
want to,
dude,
man?
that was such a revelation to me. Like, the first time I got paid for a personal training session, I just looked at that check and I was like, what? I just got paid.
This
for
is
something
real? I can do
I
this?
would have, yeah, like, I was like, I would have done that
Uh-huh.
anyways. And I just made money doing that.
Dude.
Like, I thought you had to hate work to make
Uh-huh.
money doing it. I
know-
thought that was a requirement.
Listen, Hormozy has like almost the exact same story.
Yeah.
Look at where he's now. Like it's crazy. It's nuts. And also like Joe Rogan, he was like he's naturally so curious
Yeah.
with all the guests, and that's why you
Yeah.
said like he enjoys the conversations. That's why he is where he is right now. Like
Exactly.
he doesn't bring on a podcast on just to like debate for views or anything. He's just curious to learn about it. That's why he asks such good question, and that's what leads to his podcast being the
Yeah.
number one undisputed.
Oh, and the last thing I would say, just rewind 1 second to that last question about how do you find your passion? Because some people, you know, they may feel like, but I'm not passionate about anything. And like, I empathize with that because when I was super addicted to all my stuff, it just, you just feel numb to the world. So I would say maybe even as a precursor to everything else I just said, make sure you get unaddicted. Like if you're addicted to
That's the
alcohol,
first
you're addicted to
step,
stuff,
solving
you're
that
for it.
problem.
Exactly. Because when you're unaddicted, like life will take on color. You're going to have so many things that you're passionate about and interested. You've got to like pick what to do. So if you're not passionate about anything, you need to like
It's like
cleanse
cleaning the
yourself.
junk and
Yeah.
like starting with a blank slate.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
And this person mentioned just time management. I mean, like you seem like you do a lot of things together. Like, what's it like managing all that?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously like keep my like Google Calendar. It's kind of funny. It's like
I
you
love
ever
Google
seen
Calendar,
oh no, sorry, I use the Apple one. But yeah, you gotta use some type of calendar. The one on the iPhone. But it's you know, in Anchorman when they say like, damn it, who put a question mark at the end of that sentence? Whatever you put on that teleprompter, he will read, right? It's like signing off, he's like, thanks, San Diego, I'm Ron Burgundy? Like, who put a question mark in there? And that's like how my calendar is. It's like, if it's not on my calendar, it is not happening. You know, like, so I have to put everything there. So, I use my calendar a lot. And
Are you pretty busy?
Yeah.
Like, are you like a hour to hour type of guy, or like what do you?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I would say I'm pretty busy, and I really do like to fill out my days. And I'm definitely somebody who finds that it's like the more you do, the more you do, you know? So
You might as well, right? Like, what else are you doing? Doom scrolling, watching porn?
Well,
Like,
no, exactly. And I think what I found a lot of people is like when you just have like a wide open day and you just think like, oh, I have so much to do. It's like, that's not always the best because then you just end up really procrastinating and doing nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So I actually find like time management is kind of easy and you're much more efficient when you have a more stuff going on in your life. So I would say, you know, this might sound kind of counterintuitive, but try to fill your time up with activities, you know, like social things you do. Like I'm part of that Orthodoxy on Tap group. That's how I met Tyler and Anna. And you know, you know, if you're interested in taking voice lessons, take voice lessons, and yeah, just different things to get you out of the house. I find that when we do more things, we're more efficient with our time, and we end up actually doing more. You know?
Yeah. You create more opportunities for yourself. You get to meet new people, great people too, and somebody that can definitely help you in something.
Yeah.
And for you to do the same, obviously, for them. And just the way you're able to articulate things when you know more. The more you know, the more you're able to do in this world. So
Absolutely.
can always benefit you.
Cole, we appreciate you having it on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Honestly,
You were great.
I was enlightened by this whole entire podcast. This is like one of my favorite ones I've actually filmed with everyone.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Thank you
I
for
really
sharing
do appreciate that.
this information and your personal experience, because I think it really takes courage for you to share the things that you did. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for the movement that you have. And I hope all of you guys check out the link. And there's a donation thing too too. And you know, I'll be honest, like I'll say it right here. If you need any help from like all of us here, and like personally me too, like I'll definitely be on board with that.
Wow, thank you.
And you know, like if there's anywhere we can also go and just
Oh,
have a
gosh,
conversation
thank you.
to
Of
the
course.
crowd about this or whatever, like
Yeah.
I'll
course.
definitely be down, and whatever it is, I'm on board with it.
Dude, thank you so much
This
for
is a
that.
big problem, and I really want to.
Yeah,
Always-
dude,
always
I
has
appreciate
been.
it. I always say, I'm like, dude, I like as an individual guy, like I just can have no impact. Like the only way I can have an impact
We need
is
a
if
team.
I inspire. Exactly, if I inspire other people to take up this cause and care about it and work for it, you know. So just thank you so much, guys. That means the
Of
world
course,
to me.
thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our closing statement. Do you know what it is?
Definitely.
Give it to me.
It's gonna be
Think big, grow big.
Yeah, so we just say think big, grow big. With that being said, think big,
Think big,
grow big.
Peace. Thank you, bro.